Hello. What are you two talking about?
Mind your business.
What the fuck are you two talking about?
Mind your business.
Mind your business, David. It's a good start. It's a good way to start.
Good old Nemo.
Oh dear. Do I want to know? Do I want to know?
Is Frank West?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's Frank West. It's the man, Frank West. He's covered wars, you know.
Has he? What is happening? We've barely been here 2 minutes.
Through one word, Nemo has managed to derail this session already, and we ain't even started. Ain't even started.
What is happening? Hello?
So,
Is Spook
Mr.
yelling
Frank
at clouds?
West.
No, Spook is not yelling at clouds today.
I don't have the energy to yell at clouds.
Briefly entertained the idea, and then like 5 minutes before we started, Spook was like, "Nah, I don't want to do it." So apologies, Curls, because I literally messaged Curls to be like, "Hey, you might want to watch this because we were gonna do Gen 4," and then Spook changed it up last second. So I'm sorry.
I'll do it when Coles is here and when I've got the energy, but at the moment I feel like it would just be boring because I'd just be like, no, yeah,
Fair.
no, and it would just, people would be like, this isn't funny. I want him to be shouting at stuff and comparing it to things from the 90s.
There she is. That's why Gen 4 is the funniest one.
It will be, but I need
4,
to have the energy
I feel
to
like
do it
Gen 4 is
justice.
going to be the funniest one, but yeah, Spook thinks he won't do it justice, so we're saving it. It will have to be saved for another day. I apologize. So even though originally you were like, yeah, sure, I'll come on stream with you, we'll do Pokemon. You then changed to, I'm too tired to do Pokemon. Are you sure you actually want to stream?
I feel awake enough to sit here and carry on with stuff, but I'm so out of the loop at the moment. I slept like crap last night.
Aw.
I must have got up like 24 times, just kept looking at the clock and just seeing minutes pass by, and it was too hot and I needed the loo all the time, and then I had to just get up and go to work, and then I was on the pick, so I've been picking all day, so I'm just out of it.
So, it's the usual summer update of the Brits are not coping with the heat well.
It's supposed to be nearly autumn. What the fuck is going on? It's like 23, 24 degrees every day and it's humid as hell.
The world is on fire.
Yeah, we need to get some AC. I mean, first we need to get some fucking money.
Yeah, God,
Oh my god.
it's I'm kind of understating it to say it's been a rough month, actually.
I've never been looking forward to payday so much in my goddamn life. Had the boiler pack up on us, and that was basically £1,000. And then we've had the council tax of now renewed our subscription to living here.
Yeah. Love council
another
tax.
£1,000.
Another £1,000. Yay.
Just money left, right, and centre. I just need like a solid 5 years of just not buying people anything, just saving money.
Jesus, and I remember last year we warned the family of like, hey, we may not be doing much for Christmas gifts this year because we've got to save for the move, and now that we've actually moved, it's like, hi, we have even less money now.
I think I'm just going to claim that I'm a Buddhist and that's why I can't buy people stuff, because I don't believe in Christmas anymore. That might work.
I mean, you've never been one for many material possessions anyway, but...
Nope. I've got everything I need except for money, and the only thing I need is money. I'm watching Gamescom muted because it's funnier that way. Which one's Gamescom again? Is that the one that the PlayStation always just takes the piss out of? I can't remember now.
Can't remember either. But I think any gaming announcement show is funny if you actually have it muted, because the people on stage are always prattling on about just inane stuff.
Well, there was that guy that did a piss take of one of them where he was like, you know, what was it he said?
That's
He's
right,
like,
people, my face is now rendered in Unreal 4. Oh, god damn it, I kicked my VR headset. Ah! Who the heck is that?
No.
Who?
Jesus Christ.
Who was that? That was fucking one ears. Speak up!
I mean, I think all but one of the usual suspects is here, and it's not Curls because she's as skint as us. I think you pick.
Oh yeah, that's something you all can discuss. One time a while ago, I said to Spook, I got given a gift, and Spook said, who by? And when I said the usual, and he says, that doesn't narrow it down. There's like 4 people that could be.
You guys have a reputation.
And I love you for it, because you're literally keeping the lights on at this point. I guess I'm getting substance painter. The announcement didn't even play, I just saw it. There it is, there's the sound. Didn't even do the TTS, dang. 243% punted. Jesus Christ, cool, I can buy Substance Painter now, yay, and not feel guilty, and we've got extra money left over to pay for a repaired shower. Whoever that was, I love you a lot.
Is Substance Painter the one that you get as like a year subscription through Steam?
Yes.
Are you gonna wait until January then, so as to not waste it?
I do kind of think I will, but I can remove the donation bar.
Because technically there's only like 4 months left. And that does seem like a bit of a waste.
I had this conversation yesterday on the stream. In fact, I'm going to pull my pen out on my tablet and actually start doing stuff now. Yeah, I had this conversation on stream with people because Adobe sucks, And we all know Adobe sucks, and it sucks that there's not really a good alternative to Substance Painter. Because yes, it is a year-long license that goes to the end of the year, not from when you buy it, but just to December. But they haven't lowered the price to account for the fact that the year is half over. Because they suck. But that I will literally put that in a safe place. It will literally be labelled for Substance Painter, and that money will be saved, and the rest of it can go towards the house and food.
Yay. I think I might actually start having to pick up some extra shifts. I think we've reached that point.
I might have to start doing that thing where I put it in the stream title of like, hey, I'll do a drawing for like a tenner, please.
Just need the cost of living to just fuck off again.
Yeah. £5 for icons, please.
There is still that little part of me now that is ever so slightly regretting going big or going home for the house. You know.
Yeah, I know.
Just a little bit, you know.
Yeah, you did say that a few times during the process, especially when the day came, and I don't know if we ever told this to any of our friends or anything about what happened like on payment day.
Oh, with our useless bleeding solicitors phone us up and being like, you know, oh, by the way, you don't have enough money.
Yeah. Literally, the day comes the day comes to process the payment. And our solicitors message us and they're like, hey, by the way, you don't have enough money. And we're like, what do you mean we don't have enough money? We've been doing this for 8 months. And they were like, well, there's the deposit and there's the mortgage. And then there's also our fees that you've got to pay. And we were like, you didn't think to mention that sooner?
Yeah, what wound me up about it?
Sooner?
What wound me up about it was like, I knew obviously we have to pay solicitors' fees. We're not stupid.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
We'd been sending them our bank statements, you know, pretty religiously all the way up until the final day because they need to know exactly how much money you've got and to make sure you're not laundering money. So they have to know where every pound is coming from within reason of like jobs and stuff.
Yeah,
so they've been seeing how much money we got, and then it's only like the day before when they were about to take the money out, they just phoned us up and they were like, by the way, you're like $2,000 short. And I'm like, okay, you know, I can't just manifest $2,000 out of nowhere. What the fuck? Why are you phoning me now? You've known about this for months. You couldn't sort of given us a heads up and be like, you know.
We're not going to name and shame them on the internet, but if any friends come to us about moving, we do have the name of companies to go to and the name of a company to goddamn avoid. Jesus
I mean, we were able to get it because, you know, we have good family and whatnot who's been saying for a while they'll look after us. But I was just annoyed at, like, you know, you couldn't have mentioned this like a month ago and I could have moved some stuff around and not been in this situation the day before.
We had the money, but that money was tied up in things like savings and stocks, which Spook couldn't get at the snap of a finger. You know, that needed a few days to process, and this was the day of the purchase. So of course it was absolute panic. The world is on fire. We're not going to be able to get the house. You know.
Yeah, because it was like, if you can't get the money by tomorrow, the whole thing falls through. Like, oh, good. That's not pressure. Thanks.
Yeah, again, well, that doesn't mean I'm not going to sleep tonight. Like fucking hell. So yeah, obviously it's sorted now, but obviously that's the moment when it's like, you know, it is literally that's when he knew he fucked up. It's like, oh god, absolute regret. Again, it's fine now. Don't worry. We did have the money. It was just tied up in things, which has obviously been shuffled around and sorted now. But at the time, it was like the most stressful time to be alive.
Yeah.
I think that it was probably the peak moment of, oh damn, we really should have gone slightly lower. But I do love this house a lot. I love living here. I'm very happy here.
I think on some level it has kind of sullied the experience for me of moving in, just because of how sort of close to the edge it's been the whole time. Like, we've really been riding on the edge the whole time. Like, when I got the flat was, I loved the flat because the flat was pretty carefree from start to finish of moving in on that. There was like one hiccup on the paperwork and there was no time crunch. I just had to point it out and just be like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And then it got
That's the
sorted,
thing when it's
but
your first property. It's like you've got no one behind you, so there's no rush. But when you're selling somewhere to buy somewhere, it's like, well, we've got to sort out where we're going, because in a day's time we won't own this place and we won't have a home. Anyway, it's done now and it's all sorted.
for the most part, we've still got a few things to do.
Welcome to the real world, guys, of buying a house.
Yeah.
It's so comforting when the entire process, everybody in the family continually goes, they say it's the most stressful thing you can do, and then afterwards we go, yeah, we know. Yeah,
While also proceeding to tell you that it's the hardest time to buy a house, but it was harder for them when they were little. And it's like, these things don't seem to add up. These things almost don't seem to make sense. It's like you're talking in a paradox.
Yes, you're contradicting yourself a few times there.
It's currently the hardest it's ever been, but it was more difficult for you when you were young. Yes, I can see how that's circular logic.
Yeah, we just went off on our rant there, but there you go. Probably back to the crypt. Bye, Curls!
I need to get the fan because I'm boiling hot.
I'm gonna turn my fan on as well, yeah. Old house holds heat well. In theory, we'll be fine in the winter, because this place is going to be warm. We'll be fine. We just need like a month or two to breathe and recover.
Yeah.
It's just the universe doesn't want to give us that at the moment.
Trying to look ahead and see like what else has got to come out, but I can't think of anything. I think we have covered the big stuff. It's only going to be like car tax and stuff, but even still, that's only 100 or so. So
yeah, like I mean, we had like
fine.
major, like the major insurance for the car got sorted before the move, and putting me on the car insurance and stuff.
Yeah. I remember they had to walk uphill to go to school. They didn't have buses. Yes, this was the time before the internal combustion engine had been developed.
Yes.
They had this thing called a horse.
When I were a lad. I think my head still hasn't actually registered that there's going to be D&D tomorrow. Like, something in my head is just it is literally whispering to me of just being like, it's going to get cancelled.
Which D&D is it you've got tomorrow?
We should be starting Plight of Princes again for the first time in literally like 8 months.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, like, just as Des said, I'm just like, part of my brain kind of doesn't think it's real. Which is probably why I still haven't actually looked at Kika's character sheet. I'm sure it's fine, because I seem to recall that when we were finishing up, I was literally saying how I just got Kika to how I liked her when we stopped. So I feel like after not played for 8 months, I can't imagine that there's any major changes I want to do to her sheet. But I probably should at least look at it to remember what the heck is on it, which I haven't done. It's at least
playing Baldur's Gate 3 has kind of rekindled a want to look at D&D stuff.
Yeah, you're not going to believe this, guys. We played a game of Dungeons and Dragons at a table with dice. It happened. I should have taken a photo, otherwise you wouldn't believe me. It's at least now my gamer. Look, we bought a house since then. I've had other things on my mind. Also kind of my idea of why I'm still at home, because I know I could do it on my own, but I would be working so long to not enjoy being alone. Yeah, that is true. Emma says all the young kids are just lazy and she used to do 10 times more work every day with no breaks. Yes, dear, and back in Grandma's day, they used to put cocaine in soda. Yep, that is also true.
I mean, for anybody who is worrying about us, I do know that there is like something good on the horizon, because I've been looking into putting money aside with the company that I work for, but I've got to wait till 2025 for that to come to fruition, and then I should get about 15 grand coming back, which will be like, yay, but I can't get it now,
Yeah,
so
remember
it's
what
just
I
kind
said before
of there
about
in
how
the distance.
stuff was in savings and in stocks? It's like we were planning for the future, but we were planning so much for the future that we didn't have anything for the present.
Yeah, so we will get there.
We'll be fine.
I've just got to keep sitting tight and being like, is it 2025 yet? No. Okay.
We're going to be living deliciously for a bit.
God, I'm looking forward to 2025.
Good, you should.
Please. God, it's wild how much has happened. I like how you said that after catching a Roserade, as in like, geez, this is the pinnacle of time.
Yeah, I think I commented before of the fact of how it is. I think it's so funny, but also just interesting about how life comes at you. That in between the last time we played Pride of Princes and now, more than half of the players have all moved house. Because Das has moved, I've moved, Curls has moved, Kay has moved, Ollie has moved. Everybody's moved.
Spend this with all the affection in my heart.
I haven't moved, but I am doing renovations. That's the one.
Nemo and Narrowin. Randy Feltface.
Can you imagine Nemo and Erin living together? That would be amazing. They don't stop coming and 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 they don't stop coming. They don't stop coming and they don't stop coming.
I do love Randy Feltface.
Randy Feltface is great.
Very funny.
Which one did they send you?
I don't know if it's one that I've shown you actually, because that was a new clip for me, I think. I don't remember seeing that one unless I've seen it in passing, because I've not had the opportunity to do like I do with most comedians, which was watch them until I can quote them by heart.
Yes, yeah. Spook's sitting here being like, I'm totally the most neurotypical, like they've never hyper-focused on anything in his life.
I just don't call things the same things that you guys do. I have different terminology. And the non-money crippling depression that hit me recently, if I can use such a young terminology that all the hip kids are using, was discovering that all of my D&D notes now are basically destroyed. That hurt.
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate sequence of events of opening up Baldur's Gate, having your love for D&D rekindled, and then immediately having it crushed.
Yeah, that hurt a lot. And it's not even like just like D&D notes for campaigns that I'd run and was trying to run, but also a lot of the homebrew that we did. Yeah, because I stored everything in Google Docs, and I'm like, oh fuck. Just open up every document. It's just like, yep, this document's not linked to anything anymore. This document's not linked to anything anymore. It's just the title, and I'm like, oh shit.
You never should have messed with it. It was fine the way it was.
Yeah.
Literally, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
It was working fine, and then you were like, I'm going to change up a different system, and it's just ruined everything. Sorry, love.
Yeah.
But shit happens. And
Yep,
means
time to go and off myself.
Now you can go make new stuff. You okay with living at the bottom of the ocean? The UK doesn't want me because I'm not a skilled worker, but the bottom of the ocean sounds good. Pressure down here is intense. All the cool fish say you should try drugs. Oh boy. Puns! We love puns. It's so out of the D&D loop. Like, I remember when I'd avidly follow for like the new Unearthed Arcana to drop every month. And now I'm vaguely aware that like new books have been released, but I haven't even like looked at them. Like, I'm literally here just like, have they released like new classes, new races? Probably. I don't know.
I think the problem when after playing a bit of Baldur's Gate 3 and then going back to, because like the first thing that actually started the rekindling, if you like, was your brother was over recently, and him and his new wife.
Yes.
His new wife really wanted to play D&D.
Avidly wanted to play D&D. Like they said they wanted to play D&D before they got here, but on the flight over here they watched the D&D movie. And that definitely inspired it as well. I think they have watched Stranger Things, so again, they're in that little group of people who saw Stranger Things and saw the D&D on there. And, it wasn't it's no secret in my family that I play Dungeons & Dragons, and I had done something for them in the past just to give it a try, so my brother had very much sort of been like, oh, my sister knows how to run Dungeons & Dragons, she can do a game for us, and they were very keen.
Now, need to give out a big, long-awaited, sincere apology. Oh boy, because that was an evening. Fucking hell. So, I hadn't been sleeping too well up until that point. And we'd had a wedding to go to, like, was it the day before, or?
Maybe it was might have been the day before.
It was very close to it, but I'd not been getting a lot of sleep. I was somewhat feeling unwell. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, could I? I had like a bit of a sore throat.
Yeah,
I was feeling a bit weak.
You were a little down. I could tell as well, because I even said to you before we went, I was like, are you sure you want to go? I was very adamant of like, are you sure you don't just want to stay here? Because I was like, I have to go. It's like my brother's last evening here in the country. I'm not going to see him tomorrow because they're going to be on the plane. So I was like, I have to go and say goodbye to my brother. But I was like, you don't look well. You genuinely don't look good.
And I didn't feel good. But they'd said they really wanted to finish off this little one-shot that we did. And the one-shot that we did, we actually took from Nemo's session from back when he was doing Curse of Strahd with us. We did the Death House.
Death House, yes.
And I think it told us two things. Number one, it tells us how good a DM Nemo actually is, because the Death House is shit.
It was so underwhelming after having played through it.
Really bad.
After we played through it, I was like, I remember playing through this with Nemo. It was fun. And then when I read through it on the DM side, I was like flipping through the pages and being like, where's all the stuff?
Where's all the content? Like, every room is fucking barren, and there's no point in looking at anything. It was so boring.
Yeah.
God, I wanted to pull my hair out sat at the end of the table. Obviously, everyone else, apart from, I think, your dad, because Your dad takes D&D quite literally of like, what is our objective? You want to get out of the house? Cool. I will do everything physically possible within my power to get out of the house.
Yeah, very,
And
very
nothing will
one
distract me from
directional mind. I'm like, objective is to get out of the house. Cool. I walk out the front door and it's like, stop, no, no.
Yeah, not gonna be quite that easy, but everyone else was like checking for stuff and they were enjoying the sort of making rolls and stuff. And the whole time I'm just like, there really is no point in checking. This adventure gives you fuck all to latch onto to be like, you find out some information in the house. It can be used later on. It's just like, it's telling you a story of what clearly happened to get here, but none of it is relevant. You don't need any of it to get out. There's no sort of future quiz where they're going to test you on stuff that you've learnt and match up stuff to do with pictures or any of the carvings in the wall. No, none of that. You can literally just go through the game of like, go up, go down, get out, and that is, you can just do the adventure like that. You don't need to check
You could beat
fucking
that adventure
anything.
in 15 minutes by just immediately going to the top floor, finding the dollhouse, and then having the dollhouse show you where the secret door is, and then going down into the basement. That's it.
And then just leave. That's it.
This is like when FFK looked at Lost Mines and went, holy shit, you did so much with this. Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is that I've run Lost Mines probably about 3 times now. Lost Mines is still good. Like, I can see how much you do with Lost Mines, but Lost Mines at least does still stand on its own. Death House didn't.
No, the second playthrough of that, like the first playthrough, was tense. I loved it. I had a great time going through with the creepy girls and getting possessed and fighting the armor on the stairs and stuff. Loved all that. Second playthrough, man, you that is not an adventure you can just kind of pick up and play. You really need to sit down with that and put your own stuff in.
Yeah,
it's just boring as fuck.
I think this was partly on us, but again, it was literally. Even though they said for a while they wanted to do it, like, it wasn't sort of agreed upon. It was just kind of just like, oh hey, we're leaving. Can you run D&D for us? And it was literally a case of, oh shit, fuck, okay, grabs book off shelf. So I didn't want to do Lost Mines like a 4th time. So I was like, let's do Death House. That's level 1 through 3. Level 1 through 3 is not the same as beginner friendly.
No.
That is not beginner friendly.
No, it was so. All I can say is it's boring. Without putting your own stuff in, it's boring.
It's also very unexpected for something that is official wizard stuff. And I said to you afterwards, I was like, considering that Curse of Strahd is like highly praised, I can only assume that Death House was literally just stuck on at the end.
Yeah.
Because Death House on its own does not stand well.
It's like, it's not even about like encounters being balanced or anything. It's literally just there's nothing that you need to look at in the house, and any room that you go into where you're like, okay, well, I know how D&D works. Let's make a perception check. Let's do some investigation. Let's look for stuff. Let's check for this, check for that. Let's, I'm going to pick this up and examine it. And what does this say on the wall? And none of it matters. There's just no information. You're not rewarded for checking stuff out. It's just a case of you go into a room, it's old and empty. You go into the next room, it's old and empty. I checked the traps. There's no traps. It's old and empty.
Every room has a description, but I'm reading the description and I'm like, well, where's the stuff? Because it's like, oh, there's this thing on the wall, and there's this old furniture, and there's a painting, and I'm like, cool, but what does it pertain to? And it's like, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. Really depressing, because like the further on you go, you think, okay, we've not found anything so far, but maybe there'll be stuff later. You eventually get that tipping point where you're just like, I don't care anymore. I'm sick of checking for stuff and not finding anything. I'm using good rolls. I'm not learning anything. Let's just get on with it. You clearly want me to just finish the adventure. Okay, let's just finish the adventure. And once you've reached that mentality, you've lost your players because you've killed the spirit of, let's explore this house and discover a mystery. So yeah, it was bit of a letdown, but to get back on point, I was feeling incredibly tired. Still feeling a little bit unwell, and I couldn't quite put my finger on to why I felt unwell. I just felt generally kind of crap. People have been wondering whether I had COVID again. I don't know. Maybe not.
Who cares at this point?
Yeah, it's just one of them. Just like
House of Horror, House of Red Herrings, more like very much so.
Very much so, Das. Like if you were to run it, had it run for you again, where it was just run as it is written, even you would be like, man, there's just so much that could be here that just isn't, and you
Yeah.
would just think like, well, waste of an evening.
Yeah,
I could have,
like when you found,
I'd
like
rather
when
have
you
just
guys
played
found
like
that dead
a.
body in the skeleton, and you guys, it's one of those moments where like the players are coming up with theories, and you're like, damn, that's pretty cool, but it's a pre-written, so players are coming up with theories, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. Looks at the book, shame it's not true, because what's
Yeah.
actually true is kind of boring. It's like, oh, this guy's like a former servant, or maybe it's the guy in the house, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's none of those things. It's just a dude. It's just a person. It's just a previous adventurer who came into the house and got caught by the trap. It's like, none of those things. It's just boring.
Yeah. There's no like finding stuff at the start, explain stuff, or is needed to be memorized to help you with stuff at the end. You can just go through just like not checking anything, and there's no punishment or consequences. You're like, basically, I suppose it is the equivalent of Railroad, of like, not so much there's only one place you can go to, but there's only one thing that will happen. You're on a roller coaster and there's stuff passing you by, but realistically you could close your eyes and you'll have the same experience of just the adrenaline of like getting from start to finish.
Yeah.
You don't need to see anything for it to be, better. You can just go along with the ride, and whenever there's combat, like, okay, I'll take my turn initiative. And I feel like with the potential that there could have been, I feel like that is a shame, because there's a lot of low-level undead stuff that you can throw at the players that's all similar but still distinct enough. And you don't really see any of that. You don't see any zombies or any skeletons or any wolves or any bats, any swarms, any rats.
Yeah, it's like there's
any of
the
that kind of
handful
stuff.
of moments that occur were decent, like with the ghouls, and like there's like a shadow of something that's good, like the story with the family, and how there's the stillborn child and the two children that like there's the shell of a good story, but it's so thinly spread. Like it takes
I'll never
you
forget
so
a single
long.
shade like sapping Thane's strength in early Oakheart, and it's like, oh god, that's awesome. Yeah. When we got to the fight where there was some shadows and it's like things started to get tense, that was tense.
Yeah.
Because I was genuinely sat there like, fuck, we could actually TPK here because we're in a little bit of a death spiral. We need to talk about this, and we need to focus on certain characters, and that was fun. I liked that, and then we had a rest and we got back up, and it was like, cool, that was sick. And then after that it was like, okay, and then we're back to just look around corners, make rolls. There's no point to any of this.
Yep.
When's the next encounter?
Yeah.
Because that's all we basically need at this point.
It's a statue of Strahd, and I even said to you afterwards, like, it's a statue of Strahd, but there's no plaque. Like, the book tells me it's a statue of Strahd, but that looks like this, and it's like, cool, there's a visual description for you to read out, but there's nothing there to tell you that it is Strahd, and there's no NPC there that can tell you it's Strahd, because they're all shadows which don't talk. And I was like, so why is it important that this statue is a statue of Strahd? Because there is no feasible way, unless the DM changes it, for the players to know that it's a statue of Strahd. And because this is a level 2 level 1 campaign, you don't know who Strahd is. Even if it had a plaque on it that said Strahd von Zarovich, it's like, cool, that's a name.
But because Strahd doesn't
at the moment.
Strahd doesn't come up anywhere in the adventure, so again, it's like you don't really need to know who Strahd is for this adventure to work. You can take that statue out, and this pre-campaign works without him, because he's not relevant to this campaign. Yes, it's the feeder sort of campaign to go into Curse of Strahd, so it will be relevant if you carry on down that route, but as a standalone thing, you don't really need that. It's like when I was doing Sunless Citadel, and it makes loads of references to a Charladon, a particular dragon, and it keeps mentioning the name, and it's like, well, the players are going to think, oh, well, that's important, but for the purposes of that campaign, it's not actually necessary. It's just a name from the past. It'd be like if it put Tiamat in there, and it was like, oh, it's something to Tiamat. Like, all it could really tell the players is that the people that did stuff here were evil. And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of a given, because we're playing a good party and we're checking out a cult. I mean, I didn't look at it and think, probably a good cult. Like, it's... Yeah. I already gathered that it's probably evil.
We're fans of lore, but sometimes the lore does have to be relevant to what you're doing. And when it's not relevant, you are kind of sat there going, why am I being talked to? Why am I being talked at?
Yeah, I'm taking all these notes, and it's really just not important. So I was sat there you know, just enjoying the fact that I'm playing D&D again, get to roll dice and stuff, getting to do initiative, learn how a monk works. I was loving that. Because monks are
Fun.
quite fun, even though I wasn't playing them particularly optimally, because I was just doing everything as an arm strikes. But I was like, I'm playing monk the way I want to play a monk.
Yeah.
Let's
And I think
have
there
a
was a
mess about
small
with it.
part of you as well that was like, oh, this is their first time they're playing a game. I don't want to come in and just min max and steamroller everything for them.
Yeah, I don't want to come in and just solve everything. I mean, I think this was the problem was Craig had been drinking
It's his
like
last day,
throughout the whole
understandable.
night because it's his last night. When he goes back to the UAE, there are
Restrictions.
restrictions on drinking over there, and it's definitely considerably harder to have a good time over there in the same way that he has a good time over here. But he was drinking the whole time, like right up until I left. Well, me and Blue left. He was still drinking. So by the end of the night, he was pretty hammered, but he was still like able to, make us, form sentences and talk about stuff. But he was forgetting even stuff that he'd said like 5-10 seconds earlier. And man, oh man,
Bless
I
him.
just wanted to go home. And I was just
Yeah.
like, I just want to finish what we're doing. I was that tired. I was sort of blacking out, sat in the chair, trying to just sort of wake myself up just so I could look forwards. And I thought, my head is pounding, my body is aching. I'm having trouble breathing because like my throat hurts and my nose is a little bit blocked. And they just kept looking over. And first they were just like, we're nearly finished. We're nearly finished. Come on, you can hang in there. You're not that bad. Not that bad. And then you're getting like right up to the precipice of the night where it's like we're clearly on the final bit. And they're like, you can just go now if you want to. And I'm like, we've got this far. Can we, don't just keep talking to me and saying like, we can stop if you want to. Let's just finish it. Just shut up and just get on with it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be rude, but you're like, just shut the fuck up. Stop asking me if I'm all right. You can blatantly say I'm not all right. You wanted us to come here. Let's just finish it. You've got me all the way here. It's already like 11:30, nearly 12 o'clock. Let's just finish it. Stop pausing every 2 seconds to be like, are you all right? No, I'm not all right. You can see I'm not all right. It doesn't take a doctor to look over, see a guy who's like hanging on by a thread, leaning on every possible limb that he's got on the table. I'm not all right, but let's just finish
I
it.
think
Stop fucking around with
you wanted
stuff.
to get this off your chest, haven't you, love?
I love your brother and everything. Like he's a cool dude and he's done a lot for us, but he was really winding me up that night. So massive apology to Das to whenever I've been drinking at D&D. Holy shit, karma came and
yeah.
slapped
I
me
know
that night.
from your
Oh.
perspective, it was probably less. It's not about being a buzzkill. Like when you've been on the other side of having to deal with a drunk player, you eventually realize of like, actually, I don't want people drinking.
No, one or two. No, he's all right. He was hammered. He was just beyond. Like he was drunk, but not like falling over drunk. He could still stand up. He could still walk around, but you could just tell that he wasn't focusing on anything. Nothing was settling in his head. We talk about something, then a few seconds later, he'd start talking about it again as if this was like a brand new topic. And I'm like, can we just get through this? It's just we've already gone through this. Can we move on? He was hammered.
Yeah.
And like I didn't mention it at the time because I don't think anybody else saw it. But when I was sort of leaning on my arm, just being like, man, I feel like shit. I just want to go home. He leant over, and I'm assuming in his mind he thought, I know, I'll just sort of wake him up a bit. And he slapped me across the side of the head to wake me up, and that made me feel worse.
Ooh.
Because I had my eyes closed, I didn't see it coming. It just came out of nowhere, and I was like, I am this close to just flipping my shit, and just like lamping him or something. I'm like, he's so drunk he won't see it coming. I was really close to the edge, but I was like, nope, just hold it together, and didn't feel good.
I'm sorry that you
Did
had
not
to go
feel-
through that, love.
Yeah, because I knew to myself, I was like, I know Craig's like, he's not like this normally. He's clearly plastered, because this just isn't how he behaves normally. But I was just like, I need to get to the end of this night, and yeah, it ended worse. I had a panic attack in the car. I'm assuming from asphyxiation or something, loss of blood to the brain or something.
Panic.
That
We
was
don't know
fun.
how. I mean,
Oh.
unfortunately, there's people in the chat who know how panic attacks are, and they do come for no reason whatsoever. I was driving So thankfully it wasn't a repeat of something that's happened in the past. But I was driving, and at first I thought Spook was nodding off, and then sort of midway through the journey, I saw that you were awake, and out of the corner of my eye I could see the telltale signs, because I see them in me, which is hands and breathing.
Yeah, hands and breathe, and that's what I just had. I just came over with the shakes, and I knew what it was.
I saw it happen. I saw it happen next to me, and that was when I sort of dropped the speed down, and I was sort of just like, "I'm with you, love. I'm with you," because in my brain, I'm like, I know what's happening, and I hate that this is fucking happening, and the only thing I can do is get you home, because stopping in the middle of a street at midnight is not going to help.
Yeah.
It was the mom syndrome kicked in for friends, which is basically, if you need to do something for yourself, you couldn't possibly do it. But if you need to do it for someone else who needs your help, the mom energy kicks in, and it's like, okay, now I can do this. Like, if I was, by myself, absolutely couldn't manage it in no way. But knowing that Spook was there and needed help, I was like, I can do this, right? Just get home, and just, yeah. We got through it.
Slow crawl home, sit in bed for like half an hour trying to breathe again. Another crap night's sleep. I was up like 4 times just throwing up. I just needed to hit like the hard reset on my body. I've felt rough before. I think that's probably like the 3rd roughest I've ever felt in my life. Like I just really wanted to die at that point. Just die for about an hour or 2 and then just wake up just refreshed.
At that point, I don't know if it was like you were unwell and it was exacerbated by the fact that you forced yourself to stay up, or if you had actually caught something serious. Like, it's hard to tell. Like, I don't know if you vomited because you had caught something really bad, or if you vomited because you just were unwell and you kept pushing yourself.
Yeah, don't know. But
because some people in the family did even say to us, they were like, "Did you do a COVID test?" And we were both just like, "No, because there's no point, because he can't have the time off sick, and we're not going to see each other anyway because he's ill. So we've told all the family, like, don't come round. He's ill." But it makes no difference, because that's how the world is now. But it's all fine, and thankfully it's passed. But anyway, it was a thing of like, the positive side of it, and to bring things back around, is we rekindled our love for D&D.
Yes, I mean, it was very fun watching Craig and Ikra playing D&D, because we had that kind of new players coming into the game again, and you kind of hear all the stuff about what new players look for when they're playing D&D and what actually happens. So that was really fun. Like, Ikra just turned to me and she's like, "Can't I just cast spells like all the time?" And I'm like, "No, you can't do that, because that would be completely unbalanced."
I found it like really charming, because I think it was one of those things where it was evident, like, when we'd played D&D for the first time, we came from gamer backgrounds, whereas the two of them didn't. So the simple logic of like what a cooldown is, it's just like something that they've not encountered.
Trying to get across, like, there's a reason why, like, wizards have got spells, and spells do a lot of damage. They get to roll a lot of dice. So if you get to do that all the time, then it means that classes that can't cast spells, like fighters and stuff, they become kind of boring to play, because they will do, the same rubbish damage all the time. And that's why with your cantrips, you don't get to add anything to those numbers, whereas they get to add their strength or their dexterity, and this kind of gives balance to the game. And it's just trying to get past that newbie mentality of like, but casting spells is fun, stopping me from doing it.
Yeah, it's the problem of like, when you get to high levels, you can cast spells all the time, but you need to go through the low level stuff so you can learn how the game works.
My favourite one was when Ikra was talking to me, and she said, "So how do I get spells back?" And I says, "Well, because I haven't played a wizard, so I had looked through, and I says, oh, there you go. It says that you can get some of your spells back, not all of them. You can get some of them back if you take a short rest." And she says, "Okay, well, what's a short rest?" And I said, it's basically like where your characters take like an hour of doing nothing. They basically relax for an hour. And she's like, "So we have to step away from the game for an hour before I can cast more spells?" And I'm like, "No, it's not It's not an actual hour where we don't do anything. Like a long rest of 8 hours isn't where we actually stop playing for 8 hours and go to bed. It's an in-game thing. But you know, newbie's mentality on how the game works. She genuinely thought when I was talking to her that when I said a rest, we actually stopped playing the game, and that somehow qualifies us to then reset stuff. And I was like,
because we're experienced, we just
I'm
didn't
talking
think.
to new players here.
Yeah, we were just like, well, obviously, I mean in the game, but for them, it's like, well, it's not obvious. It's not obvious to them, but we just don't think like that.
We don't, yeah, but because even when we came up to the point of where we're actually going to take a rest, I was like, so all this is going to do is say, we take a rest for an hour and then carry on. And she's trying to get in her head of like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this arbitrary, you're saying a sentence and therefore I get my stuff back? And it's like, because stuff could happen in that hour whilst we're resting. That's why we have to take watches and stuff. And you slowly build up to the why we're doing stuff. But I was just, when I was explaining to her, I was just creasing in my head because I was like, yeah, this is what it means when it's like being a designer for something. Of like, you have to address, if you're talking to somebody who has absolutely no idea what you're doing or why. So to speak, I know you love things in martial classes with your homebrews, enjoyed the variant weapons, things like pommel strikes and back. Yes, that's the kind of stuff I've been liking with Baldur's Gate. Just the way that, you know, you've got a toolbar at the bottom and it's like you can make an attack, and then it's like there's other buttons that are still highlighted, so you think, oh, what else can I click on? It's like you can shove people as an, as a bonus action and stuff. Just other things to keep the combat kind of alive, because even to a point in Baldur's Gate 3, it does get to a point with a martial class where you reach someone and then it's just you roll a die, they roll a die, you roll a die, they roll a die, you roll a die, they roll and you just keep going back and forth, and there's not really a lot of variety in it, and it does get kind of tedious.
I feel like I have to play this video again for people because this is all I could think of. Which is when you understand the requirements differently. QA tester versus a dev, which you won't hear this one because it's on the stream.
Get 2 pieces of bread. Get some peanut butter. Get some jello. Open the peanut butter. Get a butter knife. Put the butter knife in the peanut butter. Take the butter knife out of the peanut butter.
You did it wrong. No.
So what? I followed the instructions.
Get 2 pieces of...
Put the knife in the peanut butter. Clonk. I love that so much. But that's basically how it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how it is when you're designing stuff. Of just like, it seems obvious to you, but then you show it to someone else who has no prior knowledge, and they're just like, what? And in your brain, you're like, how are you struggling with this? And it's literally just because people's brains work differently.
I'm glad that I recommended your brother play a barbarian. He had a lot of fun playing as a barbarian. Definitely his kind of class. Even though he was slightly drunk, when you kind of compare and you say, so I'm as a monk and I've just done so and so much damage on a crit, and you can do more than that with just your normal attack, and it's like, oh, I'm pretty badass. And it's like, yeah, barbarians are fun. It's good fun to play the big stupid guy that just throws stuff around. And
yeah, it was very funny.
Yeah, he was definitely thriving on that, of being the big brutish dude.
I think it was the revelation after a while, because again, the problem was that on the rare occasion there was a locked door, because so many of the rooms were empty. It started to get to the point where, you know, it's like, oh, this room's empty, carry on. So people weren't finding when keys were hidden because people had gotten bored by that point. So when it came to, there's a locked door, and I literally looked at it and I was like, shit, they didn't find the key, because it was like the one room they didn't investigate properly because they were getting bored at this point. It was like, cool, it's a wooden door that's locked, what do we do? That was when he had the revelation of like, can I break down the door? And we were like, yeah, you're a big guy, make a roll for it. And he's like, cool, can I make an attack? I was like, yeah. Can I do it recklessly to get advantage? You absolutely can. And then it's just oh, I can break things.
I think that's really the fun that people do have with D&D, is technically you've arrived at a situation that you have failed something previous, that means that this situation is now either not obvious what you can do, or it's obvious and you know you can't do it. So it's like, what are you going to do instead? And having that sort of, well, what can I do? And it's like, well, if you were in this situation, what would you do? If you came up to this situation, what would you do? And that kind of, well, I would try and do this. And you say, okay, well, you can do that, and
Do it
that
then.
kind of, oh right, this is what D&D is, of like, I can literally do anything that's logical and feasible in this situation. Like, yeah, you can.
I think it was definitely kicking in towards the end when they had the idea to try to electrocute the water in the final room.
Mm.
Like, that was nice creative thinking. It's one of those ones where, again, I was annoyed with the pre-written because I was like, that was a good idea. It's a shame that there genuinely isn't anything in the water, because if there was something
Yeah.
in the water, I would have gone, yes, it does take damage, but there genuinely wasn't anything there. So I was like, cool, you electrocute the water, nothing happens, but inside I'm like, that was a good idea.
Yeah,
Good
you're thinking
thinking.
outside the box, which is to be encouraged. It's, it's what you like to see out of D&D stuff. Like, Ikra was desperately trying to use her spells in the most creative ways possible, which
Yes.
for a first-time person playing as Wizard, I thought, this is definitely commendable, and you can tell that she's getting a little frustrated because it's like with all wizards, it's like, I want to have a spell that is I want to have a spell that can answer every problem feasible, but you got to understand that it's like, you can't. You see stuff like Harry Potter and stuff and Gandalf, and it's like they always just have a spell that can do a thing that is relevant in this situation, and desperately looking through,
Yeah.
like, what does prestidigitation do, and can I use like Ray of Frost like this, and
Yeah.
and then you get through the whole sort of, well, can I make an attack to cut his head off, and it's like, no, you can't. It's like, why not? That you said I can do anything. It's like, well, that's where we start entering into the balance side of things, because if you can target the AI, the NPCs and the enemies to do stuff like that, they could do the same to you, and then the game's going to be over very quickly. If the DM says someone makes an attack roll at your head and it succeeds and you're now dead, then it's no longer fun, is it? Because you'd be like, what the hell could I do in that situation? So working through the kind of, this is why we do things, this is why we don't do things, but they definitely had fun. They were very. I think stuff like Stranger Things has kind of poisoned the well, as it were, for new players, because your brother, when we went the second time, we took like dungeon tiles and stuff, and Blue remembered the mat that we use whenever we're doing like grid-based combat and stuff. And your brother, I think he thought, obviously from watching like the bits in Stranger Things where they do reference D&D, I think in his mind that then cemented itself that when people play D&D properly, as in there's a
Quote
way to play
unquote.
D&D properly, you must use as much sort of like models and
Yeah.
miniatures and scenery and stuff. And I was getting really, not to
All of
come
the
back around to it,
paraphernalia
but
and stuff.
yeah, but I was like trying to explain to him of like, we do like to use this kind of stuff, but only when it's necessary. Like when we're doing combat, it's very helpful to have a grid and to have tiles and stuff and to have miniatures, and that really makes it fun. But when Blue's just describing how we're moving from room to room, we tend to stick to just a paper map or just some sort of visual idea in our head, because otherwise moving the characters around every single time we do anything, it just makes the adventure take a million times longer. And I think in his mind, he was like, I feel like it shouldn't work like that. I feel like we should be using this stuff all the time because this is more fun. I love the visual aid of it. And it's like, it is fun, but as we tried when we were with Patters that one time, trying to map out a dungeon with tiles, like
Every
constantly,
single one.
it's
Yeah.
not
We're
fun.
not playing D&D, we're playing Lego. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it's,
realization
it's
that
not
maybe my
fun.
brother is also slightly neurospicy.
I like to see things. As we have all said before, Gondas. A spell that can fix issues, you mean Fireball. They hadn't reached Fireball yet, and I'm kind of glad.
Yeah.
Make them run one session. Oh, as in like
I couldn't
with
make them
them
run a
running.
session because they literally don't know how 5e as a system works.
Mm.
They literally don't know, like, this is vanilla baby players, like, having to occasionally remind people which dice is in fact the d20.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't ask a baby player like that to run a D&D game.
But that would definitely solve that issue. But I mean, your dad did jump to the defense on that one, because obviously he'd played the previous day, and because your dad is very goal orientated. Like, holy shit. You say to him, this is the objective, and it's like, right, I will not deviate from this
How can you
target.
tell that my dad is a software developer?
Like, right from the off, it was like, right, these kids try and get you to go into the house, and he goes, okay, I feel like we shouldn't go into the house, and it's like, okay, agreed, we're not going to go into the house, and then we get dragged into the house, and it's like, right, new objective, leave
Leave the
house.
house.
That was your dad's entire game. Like, that was his game then, of like, we need to do everything physically possible to leave this house. Every door that exits the building, every window that exits the building, we are going to try and go through. He's very much like, I think with your dad, if you gave him another character in the future and then just said, right, this is your character's motivation, I think he would just stick with whatever that motivation is, because it's like, well, I was told this is what I was supposed to do, so I'm going to do it, and I think
Yeah.
he'd be fine.
Yeah, I think my dad would definitely be one of the people to play it like very straight. He could totally do one of those ones. Like, if he was one of those players where the DM gives them a thing to be like, you're secretly the traitor, I reckon my dad could play that through.
Yeah, because it's like, I have a goal. This is exactly what I need to do, and I just need to wait for the opportune moment to do it. I think he would be perfect for that, because when we were going through and it was like constantly moving the characters around on this 3D environment that we got it set out, and I'm like, we need to stop doing this, guys. It's making it take too long. Even your dad popped up and he was just like, yeah, yesterday we managed to get through 3 floors of a house. We've been playing this now for like 3 hours tonight. We've not mapped out half of the underground floor. He's like, this is ridiculous, and he was, because he voices his opinion for that kind of stuff. So, but I liked experiencing the kind of new player thing.
You
I
know what
don't
I
think
mean.
we've really done that for a while. Not since we were, new players and everyone was learning, but seeing from the point of view of like, we know how the game works, we know the little gripes that we've got with how we think the game could be made better and stuff, and we know the kind of easy mistakes that there are to make, and seeing how new players interact with the world and with the game and with their characters and stuff. Like when your brother and Ikra said like, oh, we've been doing some research, and we were like, oh, okay, what kind of research you been doing? It's like, we looked up how shadows work, and we're like, so you looked in the game, you looked in the monster
You looked in the
manual. Like,
monster manual.
that's not research into the
That's-
game, that's just looking up the
The
cheat codes,
answers,
basically.
yeah. I even
Yeah,
said to
looked
you,
up
I
the
even said to you, I was
answers.
like, when we packed up after the first one, I was kind of tempted to take the book back with me because I know my brother and I don't trust him not to look it up. But then I decided against it because I was like, oh, it's an entire. I was referring to like the Curse of Strahd book. I was like, he's not going to know which chapter we're at, and he won't know where to look because Death House is at the back, not the front. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And it turned out I was right because he didn't look in Curse of Strahd, but apparently he did look in the monster manual, and I was like, God damn it, you do not know what metagaming is.
Yeah, trying to get that across of being like, well, we're researching the game in the same way as like, we looked up a guide for a video game, and it's like, cool, well, part of the essence of the fun is in the not knowing what the hell you're going up against.
Yeah.
And Craig got to meet his first mimic, and we got to
Yes.
enjoy a little domestic between him and his wife, because him and his wife are so similar and they won't admit it, and that's brilliant.
It's very cute.
The amount of times when Ikra's like, so Craig goes first. It's like, hang on, Craig's in control of his character. You can't tell him what to do, and she'd be like, "Oh right, okay, sorry." Then she'd just turn to Craig and she'd be like, "So Craig, you go first." Like, hang on, that's the same thing from a different perspective. You've just told him to do the same. No, it's not that you've told me that he's doing it. You're now just telling him you've got to do it. Of like, I understand he's the barbarian and everything, but you can't just be like, "Husband, go first." That's not how the game works. And then he got to meet his first mimic.
You got to meet a mimic. It was a door mimic as well.
Yeah, I was thinking at that time, and I was like, I can't specifically remember if we have actually come across a mimic in our games. I was trying to think, has Das ever thrown a mimic at us, but I couldn't recall one.
Surely we have.
I feel like I must have fought one because it's that.
I'm sure we
You
have.
know-
I think we probably did, and it was low level, which is why you don't remember because we went all the way up to level freaking like 14.
Yeah,
whole
it
campaign.
probably was
I'm sure we
a
did.
very long time ago, but we must have done. No, not in Blood and Sand.
Not
So
in
there
Blood
was
and
no
Sand.
mimics in. So I don't think I've ever actually fought a mimic in. That was our first mimic that we fought.
I feel like I've definitely fought a mimic
Oh,
somewhere.
all right. Well, you've played in more D&D than me, but for me, I've got Blood and Sand. I've got Death's Door from way back when with Patters. We had Curse of Strahd with Nemo, and then a couple of like one shots or short like 1 or 2 campaign sessions. So yeah, I think that was the first mimic that I've ever fought. Very funny.
Yeah, and as I said, it was a door mimic. I did like that. That was one thing I did enjoy in the game when it said there is a mimic here which has taken the shape of a door, and I was like, oh, I like that because a lot a lot of people do sometimes just default to going, it's a chest mimic, when mimics can in fact be anything.
I was trying to teach them right from the off because your brother did get. I think he was getting a little annoyed at me at one point, but I think if he looked back at it now, he'd probably realise and be like, if I was playing D&D to my fullest of like really trying to get in with the role playing and with the mechanics and taking charge and stuff and basically playing the game for them, it would have made it boring for them. But I was trying to give them hints of like every time they see a chest and it's like, cool, we're going to check it for traps and stuff. I was like, hang on a minute. Let's just fire a crossbow bolt into it. And they're like, why? And I'm like, just in case. It's the sort of pre-check for traps before you get to the checking for traps part on the chest. And everything that we shot was obviously clean. The one thing we didn't check was this door.
Yeah,
and that's when
because
your
it was
brother
a
got
door
annoyed.
mimic.
That's when your brother got annoyed. More so, I mean, he was annoyed at you because you carried on with it of just being like, okay, well, you go to open the door and this happens. And then he's like, I didn't actually say I was going to open the door. And it's like, no, but your wife did. And every time your wife has said you do something, you have done it. You've not really questioned
it's only because
it.
something negative happened that
Yeah.
now you're arguing.
It's only because I'm now saying, well, bad things are happening that you're like, actually, I didn't say that I was going to go touch the door, so actually none of this should be happening.
So I
It's
was
like, well, we're doing it now.
what were you going to do, pray tell? Sniff it?
But trying to get him to understand it, where it was like, okay, this is a mimic, and it's like, well, and this was when I would then pop up and be like, okay, you want me to play smarter, so I will offer in my advice in these situations of like, we're in a very narrow corridor where only one person can reach the mimic at a time. So if we can get you unhooked from the mimic, get you to be not grappled anymore, trying to use in-game terminology, and we can come back into this big room, then all of us can hit it at the same time. We will have a much better chance of beating it. And your brother, partly because he was a little drunk, he really did not want to let go of the idea of like, this is a door, and we're like, no, it's not a door. It's a mimic. It's a creature that looks like a door. And he's like, right, but it's attached to the walls. No, it's not attached to the. It's not a door. It's not a door, Craig. You need to get this into your head. You're not a door.
You're not being attacked by a sentient door. You're being attacked by a creature.
And I was looking at him, and all I could think was, it was like the guy when it's like, what's heavier, a ton of feathers or a ton of lead? And it's like, well, it's clearly the lead of like, no. It's not a door, Craig. It looks like a door. It's not a door, Craig. And even when he was like, he pulled back and he's like, okay, well, it can't reach us now because it's stuck in the door frame. And it's like, there's no door frame, Craig. It's not a door.
You're not being eaten by furniture.
And even Blue had to come forward and was like, cool, you see it now start to retract its squiggly body from the walls, and you can see it is not attached to the walls. It's not a door. And Craig's like, oh, it's not a door. Like, no, it's not a door. Oh man, I was creasing at that because my character was constantly being told to stay at the back and cover for if anything comes up behind us. So I'm just standing at the back just being like, you should really move away from that thing, guys. You should really like come back into this room. This room is safer. It's big, it's open, we've got so much space around here. And he's just constantly just stood in the corridor being like, I can't move away from the door because then I can't hit it. And it's like, it's not a door, Craig.
It's not a door. It's gonna follow you. It's a creature.
I was creasing. I was absolutely creasing because he really just couldn't get it into his head of like, I'm being bitten by a door that's not a door, but it's door shaped in a doorway, in a door frame. It's a door. It's definitely
when it's
a door.
Not a door. When it's a mimic.
I loved that. That was good fun. Like seeing some like classic D&D creatures and seeing how new players are interacting with them. Very fun. That's very fun. That is.
Yeah, because like again, it's one of those things where coming from a gaming background, you may know roughly what a mimic or a mimic-like creature is, even if you haven't played D&D. So to have someone and literally go, "It's a mimic," and just be met with a blank stare of "What is that?" It was very interesting.
Even when we told him what it was.
Yeah, it's like it's a creature that disguises itself as objects. It's not actually a door. It just looks like one. Still thinks it's just a door.
Very, very fun. I'm glad that we got to experience that. Just to watch as he sort of loses, like he's annoyed at you because he's like, well, I didn't say I touched the door, and it's like, well, you were going to touch the door, and he's like, no,
I might have.
What else are you gonna do with the door?
What are you gonna do with the door? or you're just gonna let someone else do it. You just had a 10-minute discussion about how you want to go at the front because you're the big buff guy.
Yeah. That was good. I do wish we could have got to see like more like classic D&D stuff, like to see like how he reacts to like a beholder or something after like, you know, so long in a campaign where it's like you've got magic items and now they don't work, and you know, see what he does. You know, what's the what's his first gut reaction kind of thing of like,
Yeah.
is he annoyed, is he like surprised, or is he angry, or is he just like going to try and brute force it and that kind of stuff, or you know, or to see like the one that I was sad that we didn't get to pull off because it's one of my favorite creatures. I'll never forget Spook wrestling and killing a bugbear. That was good fun. And when I wrestled with the armor dash, remember in the death house when I had the fight with the animated armor. So the thing I like about animated armor is the fact that you can kill it instantly by using dispel magic. So I was kind of, I think, you know, part of me thinks if we went back and we reset and we gave Ikra different spells, if we had given her dispel magic, would she have thought to use it, and would we have got the instant kill on it from her trying to cast it, to be like, you know, this is a magical thing, and you know, because she only had 5 spells and she was reading all of them. She was reading all of her spells. She was really like intent of like, I'm going to find a spell that does what I need it to do in this situation. So I wondered, would she have, you know, thought, can I try it? And I'd have just been like, you know, well, give it a shot. I wouldn't tell her the answer, obviously, because that, you know, I think Craig was desperate, because Craig's very competitive.
Yeah,
Very
if you didn't know.
Craig likes to win, and he does see that element of like playing D&D as like, I'm playing to win.
Yeah.
If that just means being the best and whatnot.
That would be the hardest thing to try and get out of my brother's head is like, this is a game and you win games, so I want to win. It's like, no, it's not, you don't win. This isn't a competitive game.
Yeah, so because he's very competitive, he wanted me to tell him if he was going to do something stupid or wrong or suboptimal, and it's like, well, I'm not going to play the game for you because that's part of the fun. You try something out and it doesn't work, and you know, we have a bit of a laugh of like something happened, but then sometimes you'll come up with something that's good, and then, you know, something good will happen. So it's like, but he was desperately trying to get me to kind of take charge and be like, you know, what do we do now, Andy? And what do we do now, Andy? What you know, what's the best thing to do now? And which way should we go? And it's like, I'm not here to play the game for you. I'm here as support. I'm another player at the table. I want you guys to experience it, because I didn't tell them I've already done this adventure. You know, when it's like you go upstairs and you see, you know, there's a suit of armor, and I'm like, I remember that armor very well. Me and that piece of armor wound up on the ground floor together. That was a very fun moment. I'm not going to play the game for you, and I'm not going to tell you, you know, oh, you should shoot this armor because, oh, it could be a mimic. Of like, mimics take the form of chests. We're going to check chests because that's the thing to do. But with this armor that's up there, I'll let someone else go up the stairs first. Let someone else have that moment with the armor like I did. You know. But he was desperately trying to get me to sort of like tell him like, what's the best thing for us to do in this situation? What's the best option? It's like, well, we don't always know what the best option is. Do we go left or do we go right? I don't know. I don't know the best way to go. You got to look and see. You got to take a chance, you know. Do you shine a light down because that reveals yourself because you're now illuminated, you know, that kind of stuff. Through history in our campaign, never forget, like me RKOing a green dragon. It could have been a good idea. It could have been a very bad idea, yeah. Stuff like that.
That's how you D&D. That's how you dungeon your dragons.
I feel like if she had an example of, here's a magic lock, you dispel magic it, then after that she then thinks that is also a magic object. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I think she would have made those connections without necessarily being prompted, because she was really reading through of like the details on what each spell does. Because some of the early spells do have a lot of writing for them in comparison. Like, you know, you say, oh, Ray of Frost, and that just ticks in your head of like, it's a D8, it's cold damage, short range, yeah, fair enough. And then you just kind of write it off. But you read through of like all the wording, and she's looking at stuff and being like, you know, can I freeze a part of the creature's arm so that it attacks us slower, or so that it's easier for us to dodge? And it's like, well, you're thinking about the spell in more complicated ways, and that should be encouraged. That's good. You know, you're not just reading the spell and being like, it's a nice damage spell, move on. She was thinking about like, what could this do? How could I Harry Potter this and make this spell do what I want it to do? So I was impressed.
Yeah, because she said a few times, she was like, I feel like if I had people who would be willing to play this with me, I would 100% be the kind of person to play it. And after playing with her, I did kind of agree with her of like, yeah, you do actually seem like you would be very into this because you are actually thinking about this more mechanically and also creatively.
The only thing that I question at the start, and it's because it can be hard to tell with new people, is whether they want to play a tabletop RPG or if they want to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, those
because
things aren't
D&D, they're not necessarily the same. Like, I don't know whether she would prefer something like Fate, where it's like there's dice involved, there's randomness, but there's a lot less dice. It's more verbally driven. Or if she's the kind of person where even though she might come to, like get annoyed at the rules sometimes of being like, it says that you can do this and you can't do that, whether she would come to realize of like, oh, there is a good reason for this, there's a reason why this spell can't do everything, because there's so many spells that I could choose from, and learning new spells and swapping spells is part of the fun of the game of like, making sure I've got the right tools for where we're going to go. I don't know what kind of person she is in that respect, because like Craig, I can tell he likes numbers. He likes being told this is the way things are, and if you've got big numbers, you will win, and that is great success. Well done. You've won the numbers game.
Yes.
Necessarily just saying to him of like, yeah, if you were to just say to him it's mainly just RP based and you just describe stuff, I think he would get a little bit more bored, because it's like he'd probably feel like me of like, it reaches the point where it's like, I just say I win, and eventually I just win, providing I can talk my way through it enough or argue for long enough, I'm convinced my first D&D combat back as a DM. So there's part 2 to this. I'm going to end up using 40k colloquies like fucking mortal wounds or some shit.
Oh, right, yeah.
Start throwing in the 40k jargon.
Understandable. Yeah, the amount of times I've played with someone who had like been playing like 3rd and 4th edition but hadn't played 5th a lot, the amount of times they were like, oh, you're probably going to need to make a will save, and I'm like, it's called a wisdom saving throw, not a will save! There's no will at the table!
I remember when we first started, the term flat-footed kept coming up quite a lot.
Yeah, flat-footed, that was a 3rd edition mechanic, and I was like, what the hell does that mean?
It was like, make a dex saving throw, and it's like, oh, but you're flat-footed, and it's like, what the hell does that mean?
What? God, the advantage-disadvantage system was a great decision.
I was looking up as well. Seth Gorkowski did a video on like the top rule to steal from certain editions of certain tabletop RPGs, like some of the more popular ones. Apparently that's not a 5th edition specific thing.
Oh.
The naming of it being advantage disadvantage is, but apparently there's an older game where it was just it was called like I think it was called a bonus die and a penalty die, which it did exactly the same thing of basically roll twice, choose highest or lowest, but it came from a much earlier game. Just one that obviously wasn't popular, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting fact.
That is an interesting fact.
He also pointed out, I think there's a newer game that he's been playing with some of his friends. It had a longer name to it, which I can't remember now, but he described it as a wuxia-style tabletop RPG, which I don't know that word, W-U-X-I-A. I think it refers to things like sort of feudal Japan and like samurais and era of game. But in that one, the combat system for that one is made up of 3 phases, and the first phase is called the I think it's the negotiating and analyzing phase of combat, where every combat round there is talking and like looking over your opponent to find weaknesses in what you're going to do for the next round to give yourself like a certain bonus or a certain way to fight them, and conversation is built into every single round of the combat. I was like, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
So if you've got a big bad evil guy and it's like he's going to do a monologue at the start, or he's going to talk to you throughout the fight, there's like a round specifically built about doing that in the combat, and I was like, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking about things. It's like how
GURPS. I don't know if it's called GURPS. I'll see if I can find the video and I can find it. Hang on.
It reminds me a little bit of Faye and Flowers, the Dimension 20 show, which was, very sort of, very Victorian era inspired of, ladies and gentlemen, I challenge you to a duel, and it's very proper because it's Fae, and you got to have forms and stuff. And there's balls and things, and they had what was called the epistolary phase, which was literally a phase for them to write letters to one another and spread gossip, because things like that actually had an impact, because it was a very political game. There was combat in it, but combat was very, very minor. It was very much a political game. It was about getting favour with certain Fae and then like discrediting other Fae. And so there was an actual phase of the game which was about writing letters and things, which was a neat way to do it because it was still 5th. Did you go to the bathroom?
Hmm?
I just heard you
Sorry?
turn the light. I just heard you turn the light off.
Yeah, I'm getting some water.
Pissing on stream.
In the sink? I don't know where you fill your cups up from, but I tend to prefer the sink.
God damn it.
Sat there in the toilet bowl like I'm panning for gold or something. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Just lapping it up like a dog.
So the tabletop system is called Righteous Blood, Ruthless Blades. And it has a talking and analysis phase, and I was like, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, trying to get back into being creative. I'm doing more of my coding for making my game. I'm wanting to do either more world building for like just general D&D worlds, or get back into the home brewing. Fortunately, I didn't lose any of the stuff for Gauntlet mode because that wasn't done with Google Docs. I had a different program
Yes,
for
we
that.
actually were making, because we made actual PDFs out of
Yes.
it, so all of the data in that is retained.
So that was a bit uplifting because obviously that is my most proudest work at this point.
I guess it would suck, but it would at least be fine because at least with Gauntlet, we did print all of that out because you would use it, playtest it, your little Gauntlet like portfolio that I got for you.
Yes. So I am thinking of potentially coming back to that if I, manage to maintain this kind of D&D hype. But a big part of me does want to go back to working on. I don't know whether you just say like working on my own like tabletop RPG at this point, but having played 5th edition and now playing Baldur's Gate 3, which has done a great deal to sort of show how even just a few little tweaks can make the combat a lot more interesting, because it's like just having a good map for for nothing else.
Even before Baldur's Gate 3 came out, it was one of those things which was why we did a lot of homebrew, is that you liked 5th edition, but it was never 100% what you wanted. And you're the kind of person that you do like to tweak and mess around with something. So to play Baldur's Gate, which in a way is what you wanted, of like, here is 5.5 of here's 5th edition with the revisions, and you're like, this is what you wanted. It's easy to see why it's rekindled that interest in you.
Yeah.
Even though I think I have said in the past of like, maybe we should just make our own tabletop.
I think we could do. We'd have to dedicate some actual like time to it. So it might be one of them of, dedicating one of your scheduled days or something towards doing like brainstorming stuff and writing stuff down. But
well, hey,
like,
if you ever get a Wednesday off, you're always welcome to come on stream with me again.
Yeah. But like with Baldur's Gate, when it's like you pick up certain weapons and they just give you like an additional thing that you can do, which is like it's an attack, but it does like something slightly different as well as the damage, but you don't have to necessarily be a Battlemaster fighter to do it. I'm like, I feel like that's cool. That should just be a thing, just having more choice as opposed to just I hit him. I think that's why I would like to at least have a dabble in playing like 3rd edition, 3.5, 4th edition, just just having a little dabble, just to be like, what was it that they did? Because 4th was heavily combat oriented because it was very grid based and stuff with powers and stuff. So I'm like, it must have done something right.
Yes.
There must be something to it that was fun for people to play it. So what did it do, and how good was it? Because 5th edition took the simplicity part of it and made it really simple and really easy for people to get involved. And it's like, well, now I want to take it to the next level of I want to play something that's maybe a bit more complicated or a bit more complex. Not so much complicated, but something that has a little bit more meat to it
Yeah,
that you
you
can
want
get
something
your
with a
teeth
bit
around.
more depth.
Yeah. Because we played that 4th edition board game, The Legend of Drizzt.
Yeah.
Drizzt. And that's really fun. I believe it is 4th edition, isn't it? It was based on.
Yeah, it's a fourth edition board game. Because 4th uses powers, so it literally has the powers like as cards that you play in the game.
So I think the big failing for 4th, from what I've heard, is that it made like wizards basically the same as fighters in that one, in that it's like there's only so many magic spells you can do, and I'm like, well, there seems to be an easy fix for that, because I think magic is done very well, not quite perfect in 5th edition, but certainly a lot better of just like, here's just a shit ton of spells that you've got, you pick them, you memorize them, you use them, you have spell slots, which is like a mana pool, go for it. But then 4th edition seemed to do the martial side of it really well, of like, here's essentially a martial spell that you can do with your sword, of like, you basically just use it in a different way. So just give one side, one set of rules, and give the other side the other set of rules. Seems, hey presto, easy to me. I'll be honest, bit modifiers at very late levels are a big issue with Force. Well, okay, so maybe a few more things to change than that, but from the early game stuff we played of this 4th edition board game, we really liked it, didn't we? It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. I mean, obviously it's harder because they've turned it into a board game, so there is more of a time crunch of shit happens every single combat round. But
you're not playing an RPG, you're playing a board game, so there's like there's even more sort of like concrete rules of like, you have X, when X happens, this mechanic is triggered.
Yeah, so you're constantly taking damage like each turn.
Like, there's going to be differences, otherwise you're not playing a board game, you're playing 4th edition.
Welcome back, Cor.
Hi, Cor.
Yeah, I don't feel like it would take too much to just wiggle things around. I mean, from what I've seen from people who have been playing spellcasters, especially at early levels, is there probably needs to be some sort of change, because it's I see it's very annoying for new players when they cast a spell, because they're like, this is a cool spell, this will work in this situation. It's like, cool, the enemy made their save.
Nothing happens.
You do not get to do your cool thing. Nothing happens. You have wasted the resource. It is no longer your turn. Sit down. And it's like, well, I did literally nothing with my turn, and I've come away now not being able to do anything else in the future. With that spell slot, I was like, I got a 2nd level spell. I really wanted to use it, and now I've not been able to use it at all. And I'm like, while it's probably believable, it's not fun.
Yeah, we talked about this before on stream. It is essentially, it's to use the term I think we used before, it's the removal of agency. Players need to have agency, the ability to do things, and you are literally taking away their agency to do something. You're literally taking the thing off them and going, no, you're not allowed to do that. And when you do that to a player, that's when the person sits there and is like, well, why am I fucking here?
Yeah.
If I'm not allowed to play the game, why am I sat at this table?
It is very disheartening when you get a new spell, and it's like, if I get this spell off, this is like, it shows that I'm clever, I've been paying attention, I'm changing the situation, I'm mixing things up, and it's like, cool, you cast a spell, but the dice said no. And it doesn't do like literally anything. It's so binary of like, it either does something or it does nothing, and it's like there's no in between.
Yeah, it's a random based game. You need to keep that random chance, but you reach a certain point where it should do at least something, even if it's just a little.
Especially when it has a cost, like if the fighter on his turn's like, I'm going to use my action to try and push this guy so that he's like, I push him further away from people, or I push him over something or into a ravine or something. If it doesn't work, it's like, okay, you tried, it failed this time, but it's not cost him anything apart from his turn. Whereas if it's like, a once per day thing, you use it and then it's like, well, now it's gone. It's like, but it didn't work. It's like, yeah, but you still used it. It's like, oh, brilliant. So now, not only am I down a resource that I was using, but it didn't even fucking work. Great. It just kind of kills,
Yeah.
that's you don't want to do things then in the end because you're like, well, if I use this now, I will waste it 100%. And it encourages the sort of the hoarding, mentality of like, like you get a potion of strength. Cool. I will never use this.
Yeah.
I will hold on to this for if I need it at some point in the future. But when I reach that point, I'll think, but I might need it later, so I'll not use it ever again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a reward, but it's not a reward because you'll never do anything with it.
Yeah.
Like the only time you will use things like that is when it's like you get an arrow of dragon slain. It's like, right, well, when's the next time I'm going to fight a dragon? Never. So it's the only thing I can do it for. But if you got an arrow where it's like this is a +3 arrow that could be used on anybody, it's like, do I want to use that now? I mean, we're kind of winning, so might not necessarily need to use it now. Like the barbarian got a few good turns. I might save these arrows actually, and then they just live in your pack forever.
And then what if it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna use my +3 arrow. You rolled a 1, the arrow is wasted, and then it's like, why did I even
I'm never
bother?
doing that again. Yeah, I'm never doing that ever again. Never again. So, I think there probably should be some sort of change to spells in that regard. I'm all for them doing more damage than what fighters can dish out, or even if it's like it does only a little bit more damage, but it throws in like a load of conditions that changes up the enemy and stuff that really fucks about with what's going on. That's what spells should do. That's the kind of the point. I want to throw magic around. Magic is meant to mess things up. I'm all for that.
That's why I was having fun in Baldur's Gate playing a sorcerer. Kind of from the gate, I was like, I could play a martial class, but what my heart wants me to do is play a sorcerer, because then it's just a case of like, I'm gonna cast this grease scroll and then I'm gonna set it on fire.
Yeah, it encourages you to be creative, and like I've realised now there is a slot where you can carry a torch with your I wouldn't say like with your main hand, but there's like a melee section, there's a range section, and above the melee section there is space for you to carry a torch. So if you were to do something like grease, I believe I could throw a torch as my action. That could just be the thing that I do. So you could combo things like that.
Yeah, I've seen a few videos which have been like people doing shenaniganries in Baldur's Gate, and I posted a couple of one of them in the Discord where they were like, what happens if we just play it as just warlocks? And it's one of those ones where it's like, well, you're kind of not playing as a warlock, but you are, because it's like, well, some encounters are so skewed and balanced in a certain way that basically it's like, well, the only way that they could win this is by hoarding a bunch of explosives from different areas into the game and hurling them and having them all explode and ignite. And I'm like, cool, you did win the encounter, but you didn't win the encounter because you were a warlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those ones where playing Baldur's Gate will give a lot of inspiration as well, because it seems like the people at Larian also have that sort of mentality of like, how can we make things fun and interesting?
Yeah. So definitely rekindled a desire for me to do some home brewing, just not with Google Docs anymore. So I might start getting back into that and having to play around with stuff.
All of my documents are still in Google Docs. It was just because you tried to transfer them to a different service, and it's like, well, it's not a Word document, it's a Google Doc, so Google was not happy that you did that.
Yeah, it's all saved on their side, so it is a shame, but I mean, my mind still works the same way that it did back then, so chances are I'll probably come to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
Just from the other end. Basically, I'll come in at a different angle and be like, you've kind of come up with the same mechanics, so.
Yeah, I mean, Kels has mentioned this before as a thing that they say on Drawthy, is that delete your artwork. Sometimes it comes like you sit and you work on a piece of artwork and you tilt and turn your head, and no matter how you do it, you're just like, I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it, and what you should do at that point is just delete the whole thing and start again, because then you just come in with a fresh perspective. who knows? The renaissance of D&D is occurring. Apparently, we're starting games up again, firing up the homebrew. The minis are being dusted off.
All coming together.
Nature is healing. I'm pretty sure this white is the same as this white. Yep, it is.
Something that I would be interested to look back on in my gauntlet mode thing is something that I noticed when we were running through Sunless Citadel IRL. For some adventures, it can be hard when there's like big rooms where there's like stuff happening that you won't be able to see, but the adventure doesn't do like a great job of sort of helping walk you through, like, you know, what happens when the players walk so far in and then something happens and then so on and so far. It just kind of leaves you to of like the stuff in this room, the players walk in, they don't see anything initially, and you have to kind of work out yourself of like, okay, well, how are we going to reach combat in this stage, or how are things going to happen, what kind of roles should people be making? You know, you get a bit lost. So having a kind of helpful formatted order of like, you know, this is the check that you make when you go into a room, this is the check that you make to do this, that and the other, and have it written out of like, if the players do this, then this is what they'll find, if they do this, then this is what they'll find, as opposed to, you know, just like sometimes I find it where it's just like, this stuff is in the room and it's like, okay, well, do they need to make a check for that, or do they need to specifically tell me that they're looking in a particular area, or is it giving it away if I just say, okay, you look through the room and then you find this in this obscure part? You know, it's like you're not sure whether it's like, am I holding their hand by telling them too much too soon, or
yeah, I wonder if that's a fault with how wizards write their pre-writtens.
Maybe
because that was a little bit how it is with Death House and stuff as well. Yeah.
But you kind of want like this is the way you're supposed to write it.
Yeah, if anything, it's easy when you're homebrewing stuff because you are making it up as you go, so you can just tweak it and stuff, and you can kind of tell the players and you can tweak stuff on the fly. But I feel like it's sometimes harder when you have it written down on a piece of paper in front of you of how it should be, because in your brain you're looking at it and you're like, well, this is how it should be. And now I'm having to change things, and I'm going to have to write it down so I don't forget, because it's different to how it's written down in the book.
Yeah, I've been missing out on chat.
Little tiny bit harder.
I have a list of notes for pops which are in fact in game that we'll need to refer to a few times. Also, as nature is healing, we are starting D&D back up as my work is getting ready to go into peak season.
Yep. Yeah, is that because of playing Baldur's Gate? Because that's the weird fun thing that we have with Pop, is that it is set in Faerun, so it is in the canonical like Faerun universe, but it's a homebrew Faerun. So you get to play around with the quote-unquote D&D canon, because it's like, well, anything that's written in any adventure that is set in Faerun could technically be canon. Same with the Drizzt books that I'm listening to, of like, well, these are technically canon in the lore of Faerun. Like, this is stuff that Drizzt did and that these characters did, and like, I know when X person died because I've read the book. So it's like, you bump into this NPC and I sit there and I'm like, they're not alive anymore. I'm just like, that person's not alive. So it's the weird melding of realities, which makes it fun. I have a legit reason why Baldur's Gate 3 plot doesn't happen. Okay, that's mainly just the important thing to know, basically, that Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't happen in our quote-unquote universe.
Well, Pop's the one that does have quite an emphasis on like the Gith.
Well,
and
the Gith is potentially one of, if not the main villain.
So yeah, that does kind of make sense then.
Yeah, so I wouldn't blame you for looking at all the Baldur's Gate stuff and go, cool, not canon.
Yeah.
Because it would mess up your main story quite a bit. I think this is done.
Oh yeah, I also wanted to go back to messing with like character creation because of seeing how Traveller did it, because I was really impressed with Traveller's character creation.
Well, that was another thing. I actually bought you the Traveller's Handbook because you were so taken with it, and we never got a chance to play a proper game of Traveller.
No, I do want to do that at some point as well.
Yeah.
Because I think Traveller could be fun.
Yeah, having moved house, I've said this on stream again a couple of days ago as well, of like, having moved house and gotten the house mostly sorted, it has almost given me like this invigoration of motivation of like, I want to be doing stuff and I want to be doing new stuff. And like, I look at the stuff that I backed on Kickstarter of like the Dungeons and Doggy minis that I bought, and I'm like, I kind of want to run one of these Dungeons and Dog games because I want to use these minis that I got, and like the Pokemon books on the shelf of like, well, I bought these books so I want to use them because I still haven't used them yet.
I think if I ever do get back into DMing, I'll have to do like something small scale. Because I enjoyed the actual running games, and I think I did alright at it. Like, I don't remember having as much trouble when I was in the midst of a session as I have been with like some of the Sunless Citadel, because you have all the answers kind of in your head of where you want things to go.
Yeah.
But the problem that I did have was just setting really big targets and just really wanting to go onto homebrew stuff of just being like, I want to change how things work because I'm not happy with like the baseline rules.
I think you have been known sometimes to run before you can walk.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
it's,
like when
it's
your
a
first,
constant problem.
Your first proper campaign that you wanted to run, you decided to make it a West Marches game.
Yeah.
Like, you could not have made it any more of a bigger project if you tried.
Oh, no.
You're like, I'm going to make it a multi-dimensional project, so I don't just have to make one world, I have to make multiple worlds.
I just needed a hell of a lot more time, and I could have done it because I definitely had the motivation at the start, but something just kicked in my head of just being like, I'm tired of coming home and working on this and then going back to work, and then I just had no time to do anything else, like play any games or even just sit and relax, because it's always like you kind of should be getting prepped for the next session. It just really burnt me out. So I think if I get back into it again, it will just be smaller scale, smaller group. But again, when I was starting to look through working on my own stuff, I was struggling to find a decent map maker that I really clicked with. Because there's a good map makers out there, but I want something that is you can kind of reopen and change things on the fly, and unfortunately, a lot of them are ones that you do have to pay for, and it's like, that's fair enough, but I don't know how committed I am to that just yet.
Yeah. I remember because of that conversation. I'll talk about it now because I think I'm done here. But it's like, I don't know if I want to be starting something new, so I might find something to play with. This is what I was telling you about. I backed this on Kickstarter, and it's technically still in development. It's not at a point where I because of the tier that I backed, I haven't had anything yet, which I'm fine with because my habit with Kickstarters is I back them and I forget about them, and then when I get an email to be like, "Hey, we have your stuff," I'm like, "Ooh, things." Which was this, and I believe Curls backed it as well. And the idea was that this plugged in with the website World Anvil, which I believe you know about, or at least have heard.
I know of World Anvil.
Yeah,
yes.
the idea was that it would plug into World Anvil, so if you put like a city on the map, you could click on it and a little pop-up would appear, and it would be like, oh, do you want to go to this page? And you could click on the link and it would take you to like the World Anvil page for it. So it would all like link in together.
Yeah, because World Anvil was one that I looked at for making maps, and they're like, we don't actually have a map making tool, we just have a way that you can import maps and then do more with them. And I was like, okay, well, that's unfortunately not what I'm looking for at the moment.
Yeah, so Dios's things, like, they were the map. So Dios, you can literally zoom out and zoom out and zoom out. So you can create, as you can see here, you can create the battle map, but then you can zoom out from that and make the city map. But then you can zoom out from that and you can start making the whole map of the region and things like that. but it all like links in together. So you see how that house has got a little marker on it. That's like, oh, you can click on that marker and it can take you to the World Anvil page and things like that. So I remember when we saw this, me and Curls were like, oh my god, this looks like the thing, which was why we backed it. And then it's had obviously a lot of development things because hey, guess what? Some of the devs live in Ukraine.
Ooh.
So things got delayed, let's say.
Yeah.
But it still looks good. I'll have to pay attention to it a bit more now and actually like read some of the Kickstarter posts because I haven't been. Because I have a homebrew world that I made for D&D, which is now just hovering in the void because it's apparently not going to be used anymore. So maybe I'll repurpose it, or maybe I'll just make a new one.
Oh, look who's in the chat.
Yeah, it's almost like he was summoned. I've summoned the... Yeah, I think we're done with this boy. Oh, that's my arm. Woo! Yeah, so three frames of idle with the middle one repeated, the walking frames, and the jumping frames. Can't wait to see him in game, certainly. Yeah, there's that one. Did I export an animation for the jump? I actually didn't. Where's a sprite? Oh, export as a GIF. Here we go.
How's the Kickstarter been coming along?
Going pretty good. It's going pretty good. Let's have a little look, guys. So Chaotic shared this with me today. Is that Kickstarter? A lot of Kickstarter's numbers, because obviously everything is an algorithm. Apparently, Kickstarter puts a more emphasis on number of people rather than the amount of money, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it is better if, you know, like 20 people give $1 than if one person gives $20. Get me?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that if you haven't already, everybody should at least put like £1 into the game. But obviously, if you put more in, then you can get stuff. But if you everybody should put at least like £1 into the game because it will help us massively. Oh, look at that, we're jam. 22 backers. We're at 1,200. Oop, that was loud. Oh, I think our neighbour's home. Let's go! So yeah, pretty please go back to Kickstarter. And there will be a video coming out soon, which will probably get posted as an update on the Kickstarter, but will also be on YouTube. That might have some blood in it. Just talking about how I work on the game with Chaotix and how we met and stuff like that. If I make 50 sock puppet accounts and put $1 from each in, technically is good, but Kickstarter may flag that as suspicious. I don't know how Kickstarter works. You can do.
Many false moustaches.
But yeah. So yeah, tell your friends and all that. Tell them just like put £1 in, and they can get updates. Because I believe you can change your pledge at a later date. So like they could put £1 in, and if they decide that they do actually want to get the game, they could then up it later on to the tier to get the game. I believe that is a thing you can do on Kickstarter. So yeah.
Am I out of Pokeballs?
Yes, you are. It said you do not own that ball. Oh, it was a Butterfree. I didn't even see. Probably too late for me to catch it now. Speaking of moustache, I have now managed to do an IRL crumble tash. No, don't! You did not. Every once in a while, Das sends me a screenshot from their Baldur's Gate playthrough of them playing as Crumble, and they are always upsetting. They're always very upsetting. Because goddamn, that game be looking pretty sometimes, and I don't need those high definition screenshots.
That fucking... I was the first one.
What was the first one? What?
I was the first one to try and catch that fucking thing.
F. I can in fact curl my moustache. No! No. What a Butterfree, me. Neat, we got another boss done for the game. Exciting. Can't stop looking at them. Ah, that makes me so happy. Oh, Spook's done for the night. You done being creative now, love.
I'm checking out like UIs and stuff. See how games do
it. Sure.
Did you not see me open Master of Orion earlier?
Admittedly, no. I just because Steam gives me a bleep to say that the shared library is available, so it tells me when you've stopped playing a game.
Right.
Which is what made me look over. I looked over at the notification. It was like, Spook's library is now available, and then it popped up, Spook is playing Humankind.
Well, since I'm designing stuff, it is important for me to see how other companies do design.
No, that is very
So
important. I agree. I've literally said the same thing today in the video that I just mentioned. I literally said the same thing of like, I could do art all week, but it is important to play games and get inspiration and also have time for yourself. It's important. Right.
Also, Spook, only another month so you can yell at me for throwing a grenade by accident. Yes! Payday 3's coming out September. I'm actually looking forward to it as well, because not really had like a new game to look forward to for a while, because Baldur's Gate 3 I'd just kind of forgotten about. It just disappeared off my radar.
That's the thing, it's been in early access for like 3 years, so we literally just forgot about it, and then suddenly it was like, it's out of early access, it's in full release, and we both turned around and went, what? It's what? And in September, the Pokemon DLC is going to drop, so I'll probably want to get that. Oh yeah. Lots of stuff happening in September, apparently. The Guild Wars 2 expansion is like dropping this week, and I won't be playing it, even though I own it, because I'm not there at the story yet. Let's just open up this and like sketch some stuff.
Pokemon thing they've released.
Oh my god, I just scanned through the video while I still had it open of Project Dios thing. They've got layers for the maps, so there's like the actual geographic layer. That looks like a heat map. I believe this is a political map. Spook is a fan of political maps. That's neat.
If that does turn out to be pretty good, then I might pick up something like that. Because World Anvil does look good, but from when I played it before, I did find it a little bit overwhelming when it's like some of the questions that they ask you when you're trying to input information is like just stuff that wasn't necessarily like the first thing to come to mind when it's like, you
Yeah.
know, this particular person, and then it would ask you something like, you know, just something really weird and off-brand of like, well, you know, what is their ideology? And you're like, fucking hell, I've gone from name, I ain't even got to like age or anything yet, and you're already throwing these really complex kind of,
Yeah,
you know,
it's like with
thought
finding new
processes like,
programs of just like it throws a lot of stuff at you right at the start, and it's like that's a lot of information to take in.
yeah, and it's like I don't really know how to answer that at this stage, but I feel like I should know how to answer that.
Starfield is also the beginning of September as well. I have the displeasure of visiting Ireland again soon. Ah, boo. Right, take care. Yep, good night. Sleep well, friend.
Yeah, no, it does.
D&D tomorrow. D&D tomorrow. Right, what do I need to do? I'm sat here just like, well, there's loads of stuff that I need to do. There always is, but what do I want to do for like the next half hour? Here's that picture I did of that summer outfit. I might actually line that. We get to the quiet part of the stream. The last half hour on a Tuesday is always quiet. Close these down.
I'm amazed how tired I am considering I had some sleep.
I'm not surprised. You've said multiple times that you're not sleeping well and you had a very busy day at work.
I mean, I had a decent nap when I came in. I went to sleep at like, what, 2:30? And you woke me up at like, what was it,
Yeah,
6:30?
it was probably closer to 3 because you kind of get in around 2:30, and then I know you went and had a shower. I was doing the ironing at the time. You didn't even come in to say hello.
Nope. I waved at you through the window.
It's...
Yeah, I definitely feel like this design UI thing should be something that I should sit down with you at some point, because you have a better idea of what you could actually draw for me, just to see, like, you know, what looks intuitive, what looks too complex, what's like hidden behind too many menus.
Yes.
Because I think
UI
I've come to the
design is
conclusion.
complicated.
Yeah, and it does make a game playable.
Yeah.
If
Which is
something's too complicated to look at, you think, oh, fuck
Yeah.
this.
That's why big studios will just have people whose sole job is UI design. They won't just hire an artist, they'll specifically hire a UI artist.
Yeah.
Which I am not, but I will do my best.
Because like, I think I've come to the conclusion now that I'm going to make my game first, and then afterwards I will sort of, you know, like dull it down so that it goes back to what it originally started as, the old Ascendancy game. But if I keep trying to force myself to make the old game first and like trying to get mechanics to work that I won't necessarily want to use in my own game, then I'm just going to push my own game further and further back in development because I'm trying to make something that I can't really, you know, make money off of.
Yes.
And something that I already know is flawed because, you know, I know the original game and I know what makes it fun and what makes it boring, so I'm like, fuck it, just make your own first. Use other games as inspiration and then you can go back and redo it.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you all, I might get some training and stuff to do backup IT at work. Oh, interesting. Moving into the more office regions.
To believe sleep is fake. I got almost 8 hours last night and I woke up tired as heck, though it could be because I'm a little sick, but meh. Probably. Me when I woke up at midday and got really angry and Spook was like, "You're literally ill though," and I'm like, "But I'm still upset about it." I don't like sleeping until midday, it feels really unproductive. Just the continual bloops of Spook's library is available because he stopped playing a game. What are we gonna play this week?
I was gonna try and do Spy Fox.
That means you're gonna need to steal my PC from me at some point to try and get it working. Don't know when exactly you want to do that, unless you're going to do it like sometime in the morning before I'm awake.
See if I can find a copy of it. Failing that, I'll have to see if I can get it set up on a PC.
Did you just say Spy Fox? You did.
I did indeed, and I never think to look at it because I'm like, nah, it's not going to be on there. I was only look on good old games. It's not on there, but it is on Steam.
It's just straight up on Steam? Okay.
And there's other there's other releases from the Spy Fox series that I never knew of. I've only played one of them, and there's apparently 5 games.
Oh my god, what?
So I mean, 15 quid. You know what? I'll buy it. I loved these games as a kid. I thought they were really good. I'll talk more about it when we're on stream, but
Cheese Chase? What?
Humongous Entertainment. The first one is Dry Cereal. That's the one that I played as a kid.
Spy Fox in
But-
Dry Cereal.
But Humongous Entertainment, I feel like they did a really good job of making point-and-click games because they actually made it so that they are a little different every time. There's that a little like random element, which is weird to think of in a point-and-click game which has like set puzzles. You think, how does that work?
Huh.
But they're really fun.
Oh my god, they do t-shirts. Oh yeah. Spy Fox Complete Pack.
Yeah, I've just picked it up for 15 quid. So that'll make it nice and easy for Friday then, because obviously
Yeah,
Steam
yeah.
games really
That
as well.
just plays through Steam. Hi V! You're up late. Tired but somehow not sleepy at all, it's weird. Ugh, I feel that. I've been there. I remember the Game Grumps playing Putt Putt Saves the Zoo. I've never played Putt Putt, but I know of Putt Putt because of PBG.
Yeah. Again, another Humongous Entertainment one. Putt Putt was for younger audiences like Pajama Sam, but Spy Fox was for, I think it was aimed at like 10-year-olds as opposed to like 5 and 6-year-olds, so a little bit more serious, and I enjoyed it as a kid because it's like funny humour, simple puzzles, changes a little bit every time, based on like a kind of James Bond spoof.
Uh-oh.
Bye,
I'm
Blair.
off. Bye! The wings every time. Ugh. Did you get a new UFO model? Nope. Not even slightly. My first point and click was Monkey Island. Oh, a lot of people played Monkey Island. And I played it before I could read because I had the HD version with sound, so I could tell what was going on, but the slow word fighting really messed me up. Oh no. Old games. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna end up doing Day of the Tentacle at some point because that's the point and click that I played.
Yes, that is on the list. I know of Day of the Tentacle, I just never played it. I played Sam and Max, obviously Toonstruck you've seen. Never played Myst. I knew of it again, but it's just not one of the ones that my dad ever had access to.
See, I obviously have a lot of memories of Myst, but mainly Riven. But I don't think I ever have completed Myst. Like the beginning of the game, it's one of those ones where I've probably played through the beginning like 5 billion times. But I don't think I've ever actually beaten it.
I would love to do a playthrough of Myst with you, but I really want to try the VR one. Because
Well, the
that...
thing is that we could do that fairly easily now, I think, especially now that we've actually moved, because this would be actually easier in the house now. Because obviously there's a lot more room in this room now for VR.
Yeah.
Like, I assume that it would work like other VR games where you can draw out a Guardian. Like, this room now has enough room in it that I think you could safely draw out a Guardian play space, which doesn't include the area where the chairs are. So, like, one of us can stay sat at the desk and watching through the screen while the other person is in the room playing the game. So, again, it's one of those things where if we want to do it, we probably could actually do it now.
Because I love the art style of Myst. It's just from my what I would call like my era. I just love the visual style of it. Same for like the old Logic Factory games and stuff. That
Well, it was
kind of
basically that era's attempt at doing realistic graphics, like as best they could with the technology at the time.
Yeah. And it just ticks all the boxes for me. So being able to sort of immerse myself in that kind of 3D environment,
Yeah.
just that's heaven for me. Like the old Lighthouse game as well. Like you say, it's realistic, but it had that kind of pixelated low render overlay on it
Yeah.
that they couldn't get rid of because that was just the technology at the time. But I'm like, I prefer that to a purely realistic graphics.
That's the interesting thing. So obviously, the reason it looked so good, it was one of the reasons it got praised, was because it did look so good. It was because it was all pre-rendered. Because the original myths, they're all just static images essentially that you click on and interact with. So when you click to go left, you know, it doesn't pan the camera. It like loads the next image. Whereas the VR one, they did recreate the entire world as a 3D environment because now we have the technology for that. So for me, that's going to be the interesting thing of like, I'm used to this being a quote-unquote 3D environment, but not actually being able to move around it in a 3D environment. I'm used to seeing it as a static image.
Yeah. Like if you type in the Tone Rebellion and then load up some of those images, Chaotix will probably appreciate the graphics of some of the environments there. Like, it's so nice. I'd happily live in those kind of worlds. Everything from the background to the midground to what's interactable on screen, it's beautiful.
Manic Mansion could be good then, because I think you can play that in the Tentacle game. Yes, I believe there is a version of Manic Mansion within Day of the Tentacle. Which I never really bothered to play through as a kid. I did beat Day of the Tentacle, I do know that, but I think as a kid I couldn't be asked to play the Manic Mansion that was hidden inside it as like an Easter egg. I think low-res games have a certain charm to them. The ones with pre-rendered FMV over them as well inspire G Fenny. Yeah, I get that. It's the nostalgia thing, really, isn't it? Of just like there is a degree of charm. Like I think I mentioned this before. I was like, I think that it is obvious that like it's the natural progression for the Pokemon franchise to have gone to 3D, but something was definitely lost in the charm of the sprite art that's in the older generation of Pokemon games. Like the modern 3D models in the modern generation of Pokemon games sometimes do just feel a bit lifeless.
I suppose it was because it was from the time where it's like the game had to be fun more so than look good, whereas now I feel like there has been a shift where it's like games just really, there's a standard that they need to look like, and if we don't hit that standard, then there's no point going forward with the game. And it's like I would rather you have a particular art style that's not realistic or not cutting edge graphics, providing the game's fun.
Yeah, a lot of my favorite games are games that are stylized rather than games that are, you know, high fidelity or highly realistic. I remember, you know, it was the old Minecraft thing that I used to have with Dad, which I'm sure you remember, which was back when we were first sort of getting into Minecraft and wanting a new PC and all of that. We would still play Minecraft a lot, and Dad would come in and be like, why are you playing a rubbish game like this? The graphics aren't very good. And I would always just get so annoyed with him when I was like, there's more to a game than its graphics. This game is really fun. Now, ironically, Dad loves Minecraft.
Yeah. Very weird for someone of his generation, considering the first game that he played was, you know, Elite on the BBC Micro, where it's like the graphics for that was crappy white polygons and stuff, and it's like, well, graphically speaking, it's shit, but if you like that style, then it's great, and there is no improving on it, you know. I still like going back and playing Master of Orion 2 over Master of Orion Conquer the Stars, which Conquer the Stars was the almost like a modern day remake of that game. It kept most of the mechanics from Master of Orion 2, and it's like, that's great. I still prefer Master of Orion 2. I think it's a better looking game
Yeah.
because I just like that art style. You can't beat that art style to me. The mix of pixelated and low res stuff. It ticks a box for me,
Like,
and there's no beating
I'm
it.
really pleased with the Reignited trilogy, the remake of Spyro. They're great, and I love having it on the Steam to be able to play. I'm still gonna play the PlayStation 1 version occasionally because it just has that charm about it. You know, that's the game. You know, we play through the Reignited trilogy, and it's like it is a very faithful remake. But occasionally things will pop up, and we'll be like, ah. It's starting to take itself too seriously. Like the I think the key one is like some of the voice acting. Because it's
Yes.
like Spyro, because it's Spyro and it's got this whole legacy, and they've got like these really big named voice actors. Like, it's the original voice actors, but back in the original Spyro, they weren't big voice actors because it was like their first game appearance or whatever. But now it's like, oh, so we've got to do it properly, so they do proper voice acting. You know, so like, oh, I'm Juliet, and I'm gonna go fight a Romeo. Whereas in the original one, it's hello, Spyro. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
god, it's so bad, but it's really charming.
It was part of the joke. It was part of the humor. It's what made it, funny as a kids game. Whereas now it's like everything has to be sort of artistic, and it's like it's got to fit. It's like
Yeah.
it really doesn't. Old games never had to fit. They never had to have a storyline that was cohesive and stuff. It's like let's just make a game that's funny. Like, why am I doing this? And it's like because you want to get to the end. Whereas now everything's got to be so tightly knit. There can't be any plot holes in it. Like, look at freaking Mario for Christ's sake. And it's like, well, it's about a plumber. We made him a plumber because he goes down pipes in a world where there's like mushroom people, and then there's like a dinosaur turtle thing that's stolen a princess that watches over stuff, and it goes through like loads of different environments, and you can like fly if you get a feather because it turns you into a raccoon. It's like none of this makes sense.
No, it makes no sense.
None of this makes sense. This is entirely bollocks, the whole thing, and yet it's like one of the biggest game franchises ever because it's fun. They focused on, we want to make this game where it feels like it runs smoothly and you feel in control of the character, and getting to the end of the level is fun. It's like you don't need something which is so cohesive.
It reminds me a bit of a quote from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was, can't a garden just be pretty without there having to be fairies living at the bottom of it?
Yeah, that's fair. I'm actually looking forward to playing some of the other Spy Foxes now.
Yeah, now that you know that they're available, it's the ooh.
Yeah. Might be spending some of my time with him. Like, Baldur's Gate 3? Nah, I'll give it a miss, thanks.
I know, right? God,
Sorry,
literally a
better.
meme. You need to make that as a meme and post it in Discord. Just be like, Baldur's Gate 3. Ooh, Spy Fox.
Spy Fox in Hold the Mustard. Now you got my attention. I'm interested now.
From what year? What year is Spy Fox?
1997.
1997. You need to put the date in as well. Brand new game, 2023. Old game, 1997. I don't want to wait another month for Payday 3. It feels so long. Yeah. God damn it! I keep nudging the box that my headset is in, which, because obviously motion sensor causes it to activate and open at Oculus, so I'm gonna have to disconnect it rather than just leaving it plugged in.
You're up for Payday 3, then there's going to be quite a few of us that want to play Payday 3 as well, so we can get a bit of a big squad together.
Yeah.
Get some cross-community stuff.
Yeah, you can use the Skywolf Discord. Plug, 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 plug. Exclamation mark Discord. Yeah. They released a trailer today that shows a third heist.
Ooh.
Have you seen that yet, huh?
No, I don't tend to go in for trailers. Once I've got it in my head of like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this game, I tend to just not watch anything.
You want to have a more like organic experience.
Yeah, I'm okay with just sort of diving in at the deep end then and being like, let's see what the game's about.
It's kind of how we were with Baldur's Gate, though, wasn't it? Like, the moment we saw the trailer, we were like, oh, we're playing this, oh, we're getting this. But then when it was like, cool, it's in early access, we were like, no. No, we want to wait for it to be finished. We're going to leave that.
I just don't get the draw that some people are like, I've got to keep up to date with every update of what's going on with it, and I'm like, no, I don't know, I just don't get that excited for any games really. As long as I know like when it's coming out and whether I do want to get it or not, then I'll just sort of put a little bookmark in my head of like, yep, I'm gonna come back to this.
Yeah, I need to get better at that. When for a while I was always like getting games on release and then playing them, and then obviously as I started working for myself, my time became more limited. So as soon as it was like Tears of the Kingdom is coming out, I was like, I'm not gonna get that on release. I'm not gonna have time to play it. I will get to it eventually.
I really want them to come up with the Factorio DLC.
Still no word on that.
Nah, they're still playing their cards very close to their chest. They're not telling us anything about what's in it. There's been no trailers, no discussions, nothing. Man, I sunk just over 1,000 hours into Payday 2.
Is it the?
Oh boy!
It definitely was the first. Is it the only game you've sunk that many into?
I don't know if there's a way that you can check on Steam for what games you've spent so many hours in. I don't know what my second place one would be. I did have a look at Terraria because I thought maybe that one, but that's only got about 200 hours in.
Really, only 200?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised. Like, obviously, there's no way to track it and know, but I think we've easily sunk 1,000 hours into Minecraft.
Maybe like Monster Hunter? Monster Hunter World, 821.
Oh, you got close with World. So World with Rise combined, you've had over 1,000 hours easily.
Yeah.
Because I've got, I've only got, I've got 660. So you've sunk in nearly 200 more hours than me. That's crazy.
There is an easy way to see it on Steam.
The only game I care to keep up to date with wise is Final Fantasy 14, and that's about it. Otherwise, I like to see it when I see it. Yeah, that's very valid. Which is ironic, since the devs of Final Fantasy 14 are literally like, play the game at your own pace. It'll be there when you get to it.
There you go, sort by paytime, yeah. So, Payday 2, 1,012.1 hours. Then Monster Hunter World, 821. Then Stellaris, 639.9. Wow, yeah, you can tell that I just don't play
any of the game.
The next one is the Master Chief Collection. I've put nearly 450 hours into that. I didn't realise I played that as much as I have. Then Factorio, 422. Endless Legend, 340. I haven't played Endless Legend properly in fucking ages. Then Risk of Rain 2, then Humankind. These are quite modern games.
I'm surprised Humankind is so high. That's probably one of the more recent games that you've had, actually.
Yeah.
I'd say Humankind is one of the
Rise.
most recent ones. Yeah, Rise is, again, that's one of the exception ones, I think, because that was very much when it got released, it was like, this is all we want to do. All we want to do is play Rise.
Christ. I've got Armello, 270. Faster Than Light, 239. Company Heroes 2, which I felt I played a lot, 238. And then you know what the next one is? Above Terraria? Above Evil Genius 2? Above Endless Space? Above Vampire Survivors?
Is it Dota?
Yes! Dota 2.
We used to play Dota!
Jesus Christ, last played December 23rd, 2015.
Jesus, that's like a different life when we used to play Dota. We used to be really into MOBAs.
I was really into trying to play it with Dan, but I didn't realise I'd played Dota 2 anywhere near that much, but
that's how MOBAs
evidently
get you, though,
I did, yeah.
Yeah, God, that was literally. I feel like we were literally different people back when we used to play Dota and Heroes of the Storm. But we never caved into League of Legends. Because you've got to have standards. Only got into MOBA because of you guys, yeah.
The thing is, I do want a good MOBA to play at the moment. It's just none of them really tickle my fancy because it's like Dota's just all about a meta. There's a specific way that you're supposed to play each character, and if you don't, then you're just wasting your time while you're bothering. You've got League of Legends, which is like really poisonous, just a terribly toxic community.
Literally the
I
worst
did like,
community on the internet.
yeah, I did like Heroes of the Storm, but I'm not playing Blizzard stuff at the moment
No,
because
we
I
don't
just
like
don't want to
Blizzard.
support them. And then the only other one would be like Pokemon Unite, but again, I don't really play Switch stuff, so
Yeah. There is Smite, but I've never heard or tried anything about it, and also Smite is a weird one because it's a MOBA. It's a third-person MOBA, not top-down MOBA. So it's immediately like, oh, okay, we're mixing it up. Hi, me! Thanks for popping in. Hope you sleep all
of course,
right.
top 3, No Man's Sky, Terraria, and Warframe. I mean, No Man's Sky surprised me because of how new it is again. Terraria, yeah, Warframe, a lot older than I think I really remember, but yeah, you must have played a lot of No Man's Sky then.
Yeah. You see, you go to your profile, click on the side tab, it says games, and click on there where you can sort by...
Hang on, I'm just gonna nip to the loop.
Alright. Let's see, games... sort by play time. Okay, well that's not surprising, yeah. Cringe, I'm cringe fake gamer, guys. My top Steam game is an idle game because you can leave it running in the background. Because you can just open it and forget about it. Yep. But then my first actual game is Monster Hunter World 600. And then it's VR chat. And then Rise is 250. OVR settings. And then it's Terraria. So yeah. I don't play a lot of games, is the simple answer. Look at this list. Yeah. So idle game, which you leave open in the background, doesn't count. And then we've got 660 in World, nearly 400 in VR chat, 250 in Rise, VR settings, 60 hours in Terraria, 40 hours Risk of Rain 2, 40 hours Age of Empires. These are baby numbers. These don't even vaguely compare. I haven't even played Spyro Reignited that much. In Cube World more than I've played Reignited. That's really fun. Primal Carnage, good lord. Yeah, so I love that Baldur's Gate is just underneath what I would call one of my favourite all-time games. That's very funny. Yeah, I do not play a lot of games, guys. Not actually that big a gamer when you put it in a list. I'm at nearly 3k hours from FF14. Yeah, to be fair, my MMOs probably have a decent amount of time. Lord knows how much of my time I sunk into WoW, which I no longer play because we don't like Blizzard. And obviously, I'm on a Guild Wars kick at the moment. Late 3k was 17. My fourth is Star Valor with 800 hours, but I think a lot of that is AFK hours. I don't actually recognize the name Star Valor. But again, it's like if it's AFK hours, because I've got Idle Champions as my first one, because for some reason I got into it because D&D, and it was literally a game that I could open and leave, and I think occasionally I would even open it and then, like, go out for, like, hours and just leave the game running. Because idle games. Top-down space shooty game with minor RPG elements. Sounds like something Spook would like. Buy a ship, put weapons and gear on it, and explore the galaxy. That's just space game. Hello, I would like to play Space Game 4, please. There we go. Just like that. That's the half hour and it's 11 o'clock.
Is it time for bed?
It is time for bed, I think, yes.
Heck yeah!
Oh, there we go. That looks like someone I can raid into. Ah, save. Thank you very much. Right. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening, whatever you get up to, whether you're carrying on playing video games or going to bed, whatever it is you get up to. I will see you tomorrow for our double stream day, where we should, in theory, be playing D&D tomorrow. I'm sorry, okay? It's not my fault. Schedule. Oof. Thanks for that. Are you done? Good. I'm just waiting. Yep, there we go. We should try to stack boxes again. You can try it. You can try and do that tomorrow, okay? It's time for bed. I can end the stream. Right. But yeah, in theory, tomorrow we're going to be having an art stream in the afternoon. I guess maybe I'll continue lining the picture I've done today, or I'll find something new to carry on with. And then in the evening, we should apparently be back to playing Flight of Princes, our D&D game, for the first time in like 8 months, which is crazy. So there's probably going to be a big old recap at the start as to what the heck has even happened, because we will have forgotten it all. It's been a lot. Right. Let's load up the raid just because we can. There we go. Let's start that up there. There we go. Remember to refresh the page if the raid is not displaying for you, because Twitch works. And I hope you have a nice evening. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We'll see you soon. Bye!
Bye.